10 years ago, when we started Oasis, we had a clear vision to build an ethical and sustainable institution that is known for its medical excellence in the field of infertility. We have been able to achieve that vision thanks to the relentless efforts of our highly committed clinical and scientific teams. The brand Oasis Fertility now represents a trusted platform of fertility and IVF. Today, as one of the most respected healthcare institutions in the country, and with 10,000 plus happy families, we are at the forefront of clinical excellence and patient outcome.
I welcome all the doctors present here at ART Conclave. We will be starting in 5 minutes. Please have patience. We are going to start in just 5 minutes.
Good afternoon everyone. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you who have marked their presence for this ART Conclave 2023. Myself, Dr. Saini Javan, I'm a fertility specialist at Oasis Fertility Pune at the Therapy Center. As rightly said by Benjamin Franklin, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. So we wish to involve each one of you in our session so that at the end of the day you have something new to learn from us. Let us commence this program for today with a warm greetings from all of us at Oasis Fertility and with the auspicious blessings of Lord Ganesha. Infertility often comes with grief and loss. You have to let go of the vision of how long the journey will be and become stronger through the process, as quoted by Henry Tekel. For couples trying to conceive, infertility is discouraging and stressful and may take a toll on their relationship. But they have to remember that even miracles take a little time and have to be patient and supportive to each other in their journey. Infertility, as we know, hurts, but it doesn't stop us from trying. As long as there is even the slightest chance or even the slightest hope, we can't give up. Oasis Fertility is like that spot of refreshing water in the dry and barren desert land of infertility. We at Oasis Fertility aspire to work hard towards giving the joy of parenthood to all the needy couples, helping them medically, emotionally, and with compassion to fulfill their dream. Oasis Fertility, a unit of Sadhguru Healthcare, was founded in November 2009 by Dr. Durga Rao and Mr. Karan Gadeda. Leadership is a combination of strategy and character. Our COO, Mr. Sudhakar Jadhav, has been rock solid with Oasis Fertility since the last 5 years. He has helped Oasis Fertility to grow substantially from over 8 branches to over 30 branches pan India, with more summits to achieve. I request Sir to give us an insight on the successful journey of Oasis Fertility.
Thank you, Doctor. Good afternoon, everybody. Very warm welcome to this edition of ART Conclave. In fact, this is our second ART Conclave which we are conducting in Pune. First of all, I would like to thanks everybody that leaving your busy schedule. You all have gathered here. It's our privilege to host you. My intention in the next 5 to 7 minutes is basically take you through the entire Oasis Fertility journey. As we speak, we just got into our 14th year of operations. We are still teenagers, I would say, and we have a long way to go. As Dr. Sally mentioned, we are headquartered in Hyderabad, currently operating 32 centers across the country. We are India's third largest fertility chain in the country today. Right? So we are ISO 9000, we are NABH accredited, and we are a QI accredited organization. Right? And the founding members are Dr. Durga Ji Rao and Mr. Kiran Gadela. And in fact, also we have today with us Dr. Krishna, who is going to be he's one of the speakers today. We will be hearing Dr. Krishna speak. Unfortunately, Dr. Durga, she's not well, so she'll be joining us live on Zoom after some time. These are our footprints across the country. This is how we pan all across the country today. Majority of the centers being in Telangana and AP. But I think our next definite footsteps are going to be in Maharashtra because we already have 3 centers in Maharashtra, 2 in Pune, 1 in Nasik. Shortly, we are looking at starting a center in Kolhapur and Nagpur as well. That makes 5, and one more center is being planned in Pune city itself. So probably about 6 to 7 centers by end of this year is what is our plan for Maharashtra. Well, I think awards and achievements has been the way of life at Oasis. This is a recent one where we are being given one of the best brands by ET Healthcare. A lot of laurels. This is basically our ego feed, I would say. I think the most important ethos for our organization is that we are a extremely patient-sensitive and patient-centric organization, and that is what I think everybody, right from our clinicians to all the staff members, believe in. These are the people. The purpose of our existence is fundamentally the childless couple who come to us with a lot of hope. We have been extremely high in terms of patient satisfaction. We have got consistently 5 rating all across the last 14 years. I think for Dr. Durga ma'am, for all our clinicians, including Dr. Krishna, I think our first and foremost aim, we kind of work hard to give the biological child to the childless couple. I think that's where our donor cycles are pretty on the lower side, and our cell cycles are extremely high. And we're not in a rat race to kind of be a number 1 or a number 2 player. Our intention is to become the most respected player in the entire IVF space. And that is what is our major aim. These are our 5 core values. We call it as 5 C's: being compassionate towards patients, being competent enough to treat the patients. We have customized treatment. That means not the treatments are not basically one size fit all kind of a thing. It is all customized, extremely confidential when it comes to the patient treatments. And with our electronic witnessing system in place, we can proudly tell that we are extremely careful, and there are absolutely no mix-up or no errors which happens in our lab. Right? And for us, I think credibility is the most important thing. I mean, after credibility, the commerce actually follows in the system. We have been leading the IVF space. Till date, we have done more than 30,000 IVFs, 40,000 IUIs. We have treated more than 85,000 happy families so far, and our success rates have been well beyond the global standards. We currently have 800 plus employees, and we have got full-time embryologists in all of our centers, and we have got more than 80 consultants currently working with us. As I told you, we basically focus a lot on quality. For us, quality is the key, and quality is one of the marks. That's how we are able to give the best of the success rates. All our labs, we operate everywhere full-fledged center, barring one or two centers where it is just level 1 clinic, but otherwise, all our centers have class 10,000 environment. We have AHUs. We don't compromise on AHUs. Every lab is having a AHU, and we have all our consumables MEA tested for toxicity, which is one of the global standards, and all the work is all our microscopes are connected to the camera so that there's absolutely double check by embryologists before they proceed on their work. I would draw your attention to a couple of things here. I'm sure Dr. Nilesh, Dr. Krishna, all the speakers are going to speak more on the technology which we use. I think in the country today, PGT, ERA, IBM, these are some of the things which we have been doing extensively, and we are doing the highest numbers. Also, in terms of our micro TC, I think I'll talk more about our male fertility clinic. Microthesis in the country today, I think we have crossed more than 300 microthesis, which is by far one of the biggest number when it comes to all other fertility centers. Quick snapshot of about of our success rates, both fresh and frozen. This slide specifically speaks about our Pune success rate, which is about 67%. Overall, about 70%. And thanks to Dr. Nilesh and the entire team over here who's been consistently doing a good job here. I think these are some of the techniques which help us to kind of get to those kind of success rates. I'm sure there are a lot of gynecologists sitting in the organization. One of the ethos is that we don't do any OBG or we don't do any gynae work. When the patient comes to us, we purely do fertility. Once the patient conceives, we make sure that the patient goes back to the doctor back, because our fundamental focus is on fertility. I think we just breathe fertility, we don't do anything beyond fertility. So this is the slide which explains that. Quickly talking about smart suit, we have a very intelligent software system in the Oasis Fertility system. Right from the first phone call till the patient actually delivers the baby, there is a continuous tracking of the entire patient journey, and which is seamlessly captured in Artis. Right? At any given point of time, any one of our clinicians can actually look into what's exactly happening with the patient, and we're happy to give this kind of inputs to all the gynecologists if they are actually referring the patients. They'll also be able to see as to what is the level of treatment, and that's the kind of transparency which we would like to bring into our Artis system. This is a very new initiative, yet to be launched in Pune. We have launched this in Hyderabad and Bangalore. This is called FertiCheck. So what happens is our phlebotomist would actually go to the patient's home, and within 30 minutes, in the privacy of the home, the semen analysis is done and the report is given then and there to the patient. A lot of males, they generally kind of tend to take back seat when it comes to coming to a lab and then give a semen analysis or semen sample. So this is where we made it very, very easy. And in fact, in the last 3 months, our numbers have been growing. And we will be happy to bring this to Pune. This is one of our new initiatives. This is called Ask Oasis. So we have collaborated with ChatGPT. Fundamentally, this is again an AI platform where it's like a Google of IVF space. So you can ask any question, this would answer. So this is also kind of live. Anybody can test this out. Last but not the least, wanted to draw your attention to some of the good work which we do. We believe in giving back to the society. We run this corporate social responsibility called Amulya, where we treat patients free of cost. I would request if you have any deserving patient, be it a maid, be it an auto driver, or be it your driver who is not able to afford and they are childless. So you please refer them to Nilesh sir. We'll be happy to do a free IVF cost to these needy patients. So this is all about Amulya. Academics is something again heart and soul for us. A majority portion of our time actually goes in training the doctors. We have fellowship programs running in Pune as well, where Dr. Nilesh is mentoring. Every year we have a couple of students here in Pune, and all across the country we are currently having about 18 to 20 fellows who are getting passed out. And we also have 2 DNB seats in Hyderabad. If you need any details, please reach out to one of our the staff over here. We'll be happy to give you those details. Well, these are all snapshots of all the eminent speakers who are going to speak today. With this, I would hand over back to Dr. Ali. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Our co-founder and medical director, Dr. Durga Rao, is not present today because of some unavoidable circumstances. She will be connected with us via the Zoom, and she has sent in her best wishes for all of us. I request our eminent dignitaries to come to the dais for lamp lighting. Dr. Krishna Chaitanya, scientific head and clinical embryologist, Oasis Fertility. I request Dr. Nilesh Valkare sir to escort our chief guest, Dr. Meenu Agarwal ma'am, President POGS. Our guest of honor, Dr. Pratap Kumar sir, HOD of Reproductive Medicine and Surgery, Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. I request Dr. Kanchan Dirukar to escort our guest of honor, Dr. Vaishali Chavan ma'am, Secretary POGS.
गणनायकाय गणदैवताय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि प्रदेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय गानचतुराय गानप्राणाय गानान्तरात्मने गानोत्सुकाय गानमत्ताय गानोत्सुकमनसे गुरुपूजिताय गुरुदैवताय गुरुकुलस्थायिने गुरुविक्रमाय धीरप्राणाय गुरवे गुणगुरवे गुरुदैत्यबलक्षेत्रे गुरुधर्मसदाराध्याय गुरुपुत्रपरित्राणे गुरुपाखण्डखण्डकाय
I request Dr. Nilesh sir to please welcome our dignitaries. Dr. Meenu Agarwal ma'am. Dr. Pratap Kumar sir. Dr. Vaishali Chavan ma'am. Dr. Krishna Chaitanya sir. I would request Dr. Kanchan to please felicitate Dr. Nilesh Prasad sir. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Our one such leader, Dr. Nilesh Prasad sir, clinical head and fertility specialist Oasis Fertility Pune, offers a decade-long experience and expertise in the field of reproductive medicine, specializing in IUI, recurrent IVF failures, recurrent pregnancy losses, endoscopy, and high-risk obstetric management. Being associated with Oasis Fertility since the last 3 years, he has time and again proved to us that sky is the limit and that anything is achievable with your dedication, hard work, and compassion. Under his guidance and leadership, Oasis Fertility Pune has successfully celebrated the completion of 3 years at the Wakat Center and 2 years at the Karadi Center, with many more novels to achieve. I request Dr. Nilesh Prasad sir to enlighten us about today's conference.
या देवी सुयते नित्यं ब्रह्मेंद्र सुरकिन्नरे सामे सदास्तु जिह्वाग्रे पद्महस्ता सरस्वती. So with the blessings of Goddess Saraswati, we have begun this today's session with 3 good workshops in the morning. So that I want to highlight first, and I welcome all the dignitaries on the dais. The chief guest for today, Dr. Binu Agarwal Madam, she is herself a renowned fertility specialist and endoscopic surgeon. She is the Secretary General of the IIG. Have you been right now or president? So she is the Secretary General of the International Society of Gynec Endoscopists, and she has got so many laurels to the city of Pune. I was fortunate enough to learn endoscopy with her with a key diploma in endoscopy. We have our guest of honor, Dr. Pratap Kumar sir. He is a teacher of teachers and he is running the MCH courses for reproductive medicine at Manipal Institutes and renowned speaker on the international platform when it comes to infertility. So, can we have a round of applause for both of these dignitaries, Dr. Binu Agarwal Madam and Dr. Pratap Kumar sir? The next guest of honor is, I would say, my friend, philosopher and guide, Dr. Vaishali Chauhan. She is truly guiding me at POGS and Foxy, and wherever possible, she has promoted me and she has helped me in my all endeavors. Thank you, madam, for coming. One of my source of inspiration and guidance is Dr. Krishna Chaitanya. He is the scientific and ecology head when it comes to Oasis or all pan India. And the phenomenal work he is doing is handling 30 centers, and you have already seen the number of IVF cycles we are doing every year. So it's his responsibility to get all those things streamlined, and a bit deviation from our protocols, a bit deviation from our success rate, and he is there after us to see that we are on track. So thank you, Krishna sir, for coming. And I'm missing Dr. Durga Rao here. She is again a mentor at Oasis, and she keeps on guiding and boosting me in my all endeavors. Of course, she has given me all the freedom to work in the space of Pune when it comes to IVF, and both of my centers she has given me full liberty, and I'm thankful to the organization for making me the clinical head for the Maharashtra region. Thanks for that. And I would welcome all of you, all the delegates here, because without you, it would not have been possible to conduct this conference. So at the outset, I would like to thank each one of you. And today's conference, the theme is Art of ART. So we all know that artificial reproductive techniques is an art, and it's not just a science. We need that empathy, we need that personal approach towards each patient. One shoe will not fit all. That's why every patient, our approach should be different. In a given circumstances, if a single patient has maybe any disorder like PCO, the same treatment won't be applicable for that patient which has worked for the other patient. So we have to have a personalized, individualized protocol, and that is how we at Oasis function. So we call it the art of ART. And the second thing is a novel initiative we are going to launch today. We already have launched it in the press conference, but in front of you is reproduce. Now this reproduce word has got two meanings. One is the knowledge sharing which we are going to have here since morning we had. And this reproduction of this knowledge in your practice is very, very important. So reproduce the knowledge to help couples reproduce is what is the initiative we have launched this time, and please all of you bless us with that initiative. We also have a web-based platform where you can ask you queries. You can have a patient-based questionnaire also, so you can put in your queries there on that web-based platform and we can answer that. Of course, we are available on social media handles like WhatsApp and other handles where you can personally approach us, but the website which we have launched also includes the reproduce as one of the things. I'm sure you have already experienced the fruitfulness of the workshop since morning, and I'm not going to talk too much about the talks which are going to be there. These are practical and to the point talks, and we have Dr. Pratap Kumar sir who is going to talk about optimizing controlled ovarian stimulation and ovulation induction. He has already spoken with me and said that he has made it simplified for all the gynecologists, not just fertility specialists. And we have the next speaker, Dr. Durgara, who's going to talk about the success rates of IVF. Dr. Krishna Chaitanya, who's going to talk about the newer advances in this field. Myself, I'm going to talk about the core ovarian reserve because we see lots of patients now who have diminished ovarian reserve with patients in their 20s, early 30s having a decreased AMH, what to do in those scenarios. And we then have a panel discussion, interesting quiz session, and we have an open forum at the end where you can have your questions being asked directed towards the specialists. So I welcome you all, and I welcome all the dignitaries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Durga Rao ma'am is not present with us because of her health. We are really missing her. As rightly said by Maya Angelou, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. For that one woman who always urges us to do better than the best. Our mentor guide, a true inspiration to all of us, our co-founder and medical director, Dr. Durga Rao ma'am. She's a specialist in reproductive medicine and minimally invasive surgery. She is responsible for bringing the most advanced ART treatment at Oasis for the benefit of our patients. With her experience and competence and personalized approach for every patient of hers, she has rightly earned herself a leading place in this fertility industry. Excellence reflects her dedication, determination, and perseverance. Also present with us today is our scientific head and clinical embryologist, Dr. Krishna Chaitanya sir, offering over 10 years of experience with a variety of collaborative research work in reproductive biology, with expertise in clinical embryology, cryopreservation of gametes and embryos, IVF, embryonic stem cells, and andrology. The influence of a great teacher can never be erased. Our guest of honor, Dr. Pratap Kumar sir, with unmatched expertise in the field of OBGYN, infertility, and endoscopic surgery. He currently holds the position of HOD of Reproductive Medicine and Surgery at Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. We are truly honored to have you with us, sir. An empowered woman is powerful beyond measure and beautiful beyond description. Our guest of honor, Dr. Vaishali Chavan ma'am, Secretary POGS, Director of Obstetrics at Sayadri Super Speciality Hospital, Hadassar. She has over 20 years of experience and expertise in the field of OBGYN endoscopic surgery. Welcome, ma'am. A strong woman knows she has strength enough for the journey, but a woman of strength knows it is the journey where she will become strong. Another woman of strength, our chief guest, Dr. Meenu Agarwal ma'am, President POGS, elected board member of International Society of Gynecological Endoscopists. She is a leading endoscopic surgeon and infertility specialist with over 30 years of unmatched experience. Welcome, ma'am. I request Dr. Meenu Agarwal ma'am to share a few thoughts with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Saidi, for this kind words and kind introduction. My distinguished guests over here, Dr. Pratap Kumar sir. I think teacher of teachers, some people like their teacher, some people love their teacher, some people, adore their teacher, but he's like God to his students. So I have met few of his students who think that he's beyond God for them. So I think first a big round of applause for Dr. Pratap Kumar over here. Thank you, sir. Dr. Vaishali Chavan, the General Secretary POGS, very dynamic, very elegant, and always makes it a point to be there for every POGS function. Of course, she has to be there in spite of her very, very busy schedule. Dr. Krishna Chaitanya, very welcome to Pune. Very nice to have you over here. And I knew Oasis is doing great work. Durga is a good friend of mine. But I really did not know that you have so many centers all over India till now, till today's your speech. And you are actually indeed doing a great work. Nilesh Kanchan, I know very, very, very sincere, very dedicated IVF specialist from your center in Oasis in Pune. And of course, all over, and you're also running training courses, which is really the need of the hour. I think all PG students, I think I can see a lot of PG students over here. They pass out, they either want to get into ART or into endoscopy. I think it is high time that the MD in obstetrics should be separate from MD in gynecology. Because you do all that obstetrics and all those pelvis and baby and everything, and then finally you leave that and then go to gynecology, which is absolutely fine. Whatever choices you make in life, it's always it's good to make choices. That even if you go wrong, does not matter. But always good to make good choices in life. Whenever you go crossroad, I should go right or left. Make a choice. Do that. Does not matter. Even if it is a wrong choice, you can always turn around and go to the other side. So thank you very much, Nilesh, for this kind invitation. And I wish all of you all good learning on the trainers that you have over here, and nice lectures that you would be listening to. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. And can we have a round of applause for Meenu, madam? So thank you for giving her blessings to this function of today. And I forgot to thank POGS, Pune Gynec Society. So I would like to thank the office bearers of POGS and whole team for standing behind this program and for this successful program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We are truly blessed by your kind words. We find it great pleasure and take the opportunity for the launch of our souvenir, Art of ART, by the hands of our esteemed guests.
Please don't forget to collect a copy of your souvenir before you go because this includes a ready-made protocol for the common scenarios in infertility and their answers by experts.
So thank you to all the dignitaries. I request all of you to kindly settle in the audience as we will shortly begin our academic sessions. Good afternoon again, and without further ado, let us move to the much awaited scientific sessions. I would love to call on stage our chairpersons for the next session, Dr. Minu Agarwal ma'am, Dr. Uma Mankari ma'am, Senior Professor and HOD at GMC Baramati, Dr. Meenakshi Deshpande ma'am, President IMA. Our session will be by Dr. Pratap Kumar sir on optimizing ovarian stimulation in IVF. Although sir needs no introduction, I would request Dr. Minu Agarwal ma'am to formally introduce our speaker to us.
Good afternoon, sir. It's our proud pleasure to introduce you, sir. Sir was National Vice President of the Federation of Obstetric and Gynec 1999, President of the Karnataka State OBGY Society in the year 2011-12. Sir has also and had got the Dr. Durusha Lifetime Achievement Award 2017 by the ISAR, the Foxy Dr. Kutti Lifetime Achievement Award for 2011. Incredible, sir has more than 300 publications and presented more than 1,000 presentations, and you all can see a big biodata there. But what is nice is, sir is going to present his talk for the common gynecologist. That will be very nice of you, sir. So, optimizing ovarian stimulation in IVF.
Yeah, the more we talk about art of ART, I think we more and more ART we do, we think it is more art than science. Because actually even we don't know which patient will be test will be positive or which will be negative. So yeah, that's a very nice talk that you have on induction of ovulation.
Thank you very much for the introduction. A special thanks to Nilesh for having invited me. He told me a few months back, and I travel all the weekend for some talk or other, and this weekend happened to be free for me to come to Pune. So I'm here with you, Nilesh, and his team, and all of you seeing such a big number is a delightful experience as well. So, President of Society, Secretary, all coming here today, and it's a great pleasure. Yeah. I will take you through basics of ovulation and what we do as a gynecologist and of course a fertility expert. I'm not going to talk much about IVF because we are not doing IVF at the moment right now. So I bring greetings from Karnataka State, from Manipal University, and that is where we come from, very close to Pune, not too close but not too far either. That's our university building with 4 floors of library for students and 4 floors of administrative wing on this Manipal campus. Now we know that ovulation induction seems to be a very important part of our life to create ovulation there. And I'm going to talk about non-ART cycles. When you say ART, it means IVF. Assisted technology means only manipulation of sperm, and assisted conception is intrauterine insemination. Assisted reproductive technology means IVF and other things. So my 99% of my talk would be on non-IVF cases. So we all have understood physiology several years back, yet not properly understood, because the follicular growth seems to be the main aim in induction of ovulation, and we need it to rupture, and the follicle will produce estradiol. That's important. The estradiol will get into the endometrium. So we want the grafting follicle to grow, we want the endometrium to grow. When they ovulate, we know there is, along with estrogen, progesterone. It's not only progesterone, it's also estrogen. So the corpus luteum function is important. When the corpus luteum is a fixed 14 days system, it goes away, and then the withdrawal, she will get the menstruation. So when somebody is regularly menstruating, that means she is ovulating. It's a basic concept. When somebody is not menstruating, she is not ovulating well. So even when a woman is ovulating, there is a indication to induce ovulation because of certain procedures which can be timed according to the ovulation. So, interestingly, one follicle per month, that's a strange part. A woman is definitely a grand part of the human being, and they have a grand ovulation just once a month. But the male species are not so grand. There are many of them sperms are there all the time waiting for the egg to come out. And one little sperm will meet a large egg. I always say it's a love story between the largest cell in the woman and the smallest cell in the man. And that's what happens. But we are not going to achieve that love story all the time. So, when one dominant follicle is being recruited in a normal physiology or in our day-to-day practice, so many follicles are recruited as you see there, and only one lucky becomes a dominant follicle. Hence, in our stimulatory protocols, we should get one dominant follicle or maybe two and not more. If you get too many dominant follicles, there will be multiple pregnancy. Our aim should be to get one dominant follicle in a non-IVF cycle and maybe 8 to 10 dominant follicles in an IVF cycle. Now the FSH, I put a little small LH there. That means FSH, LH are friends, but the dominant friend should be FSH and the non-dominant friend must be LH. Certain types of PCOS will find both are dominant and the little one becomes more dominant. So LH is too much in PCOS, that is not good. The less dominant one must remain less dominant. So when you find in a PCOS, there will be definitely high LH. You can't start induction of ovulation without making it less dominant. So what we do is, in a PCOS, very high AMH, anti-Mullerian hormone is something nice. Anti-Mullerian hormone should be between 1.5 to 3.5 nanogram per ml. That's a normal. If somebody has 8 to 10 reserve eggs, she'll have that kind of AMH. Somebody has not much of a reserve, she'll have less than 1. And somebody has PCOS, she'll have 5, 6, 7, 8 AMH. Larger the number of AMH, larger is the LH. So in those cases, probably there is no routine necessary to LH, but I know to suppress that LH, we need to give some suppression, first of all, maybe ocephils, and then start an induction of ovulation if the LH is very high. What is high? In obstetrics and gynecology, I like the number 10. You all would agree with me, madam, they're talking about obstetrics and gynecology. Number 10, everything is 10 in OB-GYN. 10 hours of labor, 10 centimeters dilatation, 10 centimeter fallopian tube, 10 centimeter lower segment, anything you name is 10 centimeters. 10% incidence is the guess number. I always tell my students, if you don't know the number, you tell 10, you'll be correct most often. FSH must be less than 10, LH must be less than 10, antral follicles must be around 10, not less but not more. So it approximately makes up our thinking good if you remember that single value. However, when we know that the FSH is being stimulated for the granular cells, it will produce estrogen. Why? How do we make out the estrogen? We don't estimate estrogen. Look at the endometrium. I always say nearing ovulation, it should be again 10. 10 millimeters is most ideal. At least 7 millimeters is the next ideal. So when you find what is a dominant follicle? It should be at least 18 millimeters by ultrasound or even more. When you induce by clomiphene citrate, it will be even more. It will be 22 millimeters. I don't give HCG trigger most of the time. I'm going to tell you that. So that's important to understand. Get that follicle for at least 18 millimeters or even 22 millimeters. Then it's a good follicle. Now, so in whom are we going to do all the induction of ovulation? The tubes must be patent, intact uterus, responsive endometrium, and cervix that allows maybe procedure like IUI. When you induce ovulation, you don't have to do IUI. You can do timed intercourse. But you know how the men are. Men don't get erection. It's not like pressing of a button. He gets an erection. It doesn't happen. The time we are saying IUI today, he cannot get erection. So that means we should know something called IUI can be replaced because that man cannot produce that particular day. So that's why IUI is introduced when you don't have intercourse happening. So all these anovula, either she's ovulating or she's not ovulating, still we can give induction of ovulation. The main aim is to maximize pregnancy rates in the stimulated cycle And of course, minimize multiple pregnancy. Nowadays, if you get twin pregnancy, it is not a success. It's a failure. You should get only singleton pregnancy, and sometimes IVF we do get, but triplets is worse. Should never get. I had the other day a referral from a simple clomiphene citrate induction, erratically done by another center nearby, and it was quintuplets, just the induction of ovulation. They just gave HCG for all these 6, 7 follicles, and I was shocked. And I am an expert also in embryo reduction. I can do that. I reduce it to twins. I remove the 3 by giving potassium chloride. I called the doctor and said, "How did you give HCG? Why should you give HCG? You don't have to. If you get little more follicle than the 2, 3, don't give up, but give leuprolide. Leuprolide 1 milligram is enough. That will ovulate after 36 hours, sometimes 24 hours. But don't give HCG. HCG is the culprit of ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome because it will act on the vascular endothelial growth factor, release all those things outside, and they get into ascites. Intravascular space becomes extravascular space. They'll have bloating, they'll have abdominal distension. So, if you have a doubt, give leuprolide, nothing will happen. But the one difference is, if you're giving leuprolide for ovulation trigger, the corpus luteum goes off track. The estrogen and progesterone goes down because it's a leukolysis. So you should give estrogen Proguanova 2 milligram per day and medroxy, not medroxy. You give this micronized progesterone after IUI. So I think if you're doing IUI after leuprolide, give estrogen and progesterone. Little bit of estrogen of 2 milligram per day. So I give from day 18 to 28 days, like a corpus luteum. Around 10 days is enough, I suppose. So, if you give HCG, don't give HCG if there are too many follicles. Once you give HCG, there is no need to support the progesterone at all. If you use clomiphene citrate and letrozole alone and HCG, there is no need to give luteal phase support because all this acts on the hypothalamus. Anti-estrogen, it goes on hypothalamus. FSHLS is released anyway. But if you're using gonadotropin for induction of ovulation, you have to give luteal support. Why I'm stressing on that is everybody wants to give progesterone after IUI. You don't have to. If you give simply left and right progesterone, you are going to close the window of implantation. Then the implantation happens only one day. You simply close it off and there won't be any pregnancy. So don't give progesterone if you're giving induction with clomiphene and letrozole and HCG. You give only progesterone here. We added gonadotropin because gonadotropin acts on the ovaries, not on the hypothalamus. So with that in mind, we know that unexplained infertility, mild endometriosis, mild male factor, you have to give an induction of ovulation and then do IUI. I'm not going to talk about IUI because that's not my topic for today. However, we know that the lots of reasons for IUI, starting with erectile dysfunction and low sperm count, not too low but moderate, basic low category. Because if you do IUI with natural cycle, look at the pregnancy, it's only 3%, very low. But when you add clomiphene citrate, it is not wonders, it is 5%. Clomiphene and IUI will be 8%, and gonadotropin is around the same, little more. But if you add gonadotropins and IUI, it becomes 17%. People come and ask us, you've done induction of ovulation, no pregnancy. I said, that's how the life is. It's not easy. IVF, no pregnancy. I said, that's a life. You cannot assure of 100% pregnancy because we don't know one thing in science, that is implantation. All the implantation glue, what you spoke about earlier, has not been proved to be successful. In some cases, yes, some cases it's not. That means we have not yet understood one major portion of fertility in the implantation. Now, clomiphene is the most important choice. You should know about it because there are 2 parts in the clomiphene. You should know that because something called as trans and cis. Most of these N-clomiphene, the trans, they make her ovulate. But in tablet, there's something else called as zooclomiphene. That's not good. It's a kind of a bad thing to happen. So that means now there are clomiphene available without the zoo part. But most of the time it has both. Why you should know that is, you should not go on giving induction of ovulation on 6 months and 12 months because the bad part accumulates in the body there and spoils the egg. So you give for 3 months and stop. Then you can again give a gap for 1 month and restart. However, this is important to understand because zooclomiphene is cleared very slowly in the body and of course through the GIT, etc., liver, etc. Now, it's structurally similar to estrogen, but it's an anti-estrogen basically. That's why when it's anti-estrogen means hypothalamus gets kind of blocked and the FSH goes up in the body and she'll ovulate. So that's a major difference. Now, basically, clomiphene citrate emergence of dominant follicle increases estrogen, that's what we want in clinical practice, triggers the mid-cycle LH surge on its own sometime, or you give HCG and then ovulation. So the N-clomiphene part is an important issue, as I said. There is no anti-estrogenic effect basically in the mid-cycle and in the luteal phase. How do we give that? We start with 50 milligram in a thin build patient, maybe 100 milligram in a little bigger build patient. You just give 5 days, second day to fifth day, as everybody knows that. But don't call them by 7, 8 days. Call them only around 12th or 14th day, because the 14 days is important. If you call them 10 days and 11 days, they're going to unnecessary interfere with gonadotrophins and so on. Just wait. If she doesn't ovulate, next time you can change the plan. I call them on day 14, not even 12. But sometimes they, 26 day cycle means they'll ovulate by 12 days. We know that in minus 14 days. In those cases, I call them on day 12, otherwise just day 14. And you expect an 18 millimeter follicle, and then you can either wait for ovulation or you can give trigger of 5,000 international units and do IUI. IUI is done after 36 hours, usually, and not one day later, but 36 hours will be there. You can increase the dosage to 150 milligram and so on, but never go more than 6. I don't even give 6 times, I only give 4 times, 4 months, and then stop it. Because 6 months will be too much, but never in the whole lifespan of it should not be more than 12 times. The trigger, American Society of Reproductive Medicine has said the pregnancy chances are best after IUI or timed intercourse following confirmed LH surge. On their own, LH surge can come up, and that's the best. If they don't, of course, ovulation trigger is best reserved when LH monitoring is unavailable or, of course, unreliable. No LH surge on day 18 or a follicle over 20 millimeters, you have not found the LH surge. You have urinary kits also. You can do the LH kit. The 2 lines comes up means LH surge, it's like urinary pregnancy test. Take the urine drop and put it there. If you get 2 lines in the urine there, that means LH surge occurred now. So you can call them for IUI or maybe have time intercourse tomorrow and day after tomorrow. That's how it is. So ovulation triggered by HCG, no conclusive evidence is recommended by most of the people. Like Cochrane studies, my good friend, of course, Mohan Kamath and George from Vellore have published this data. There is no conclusive evidence. Use of other ovulation triggers has not been properly evaluated yet, the leuprolide what I mentioned. So, there is insufficient evidence to determine whether there is any difference in safety or effectiveness between different methods of synchronization of ovulation and insemination. As always, more research is necessary. Timing of IUI after LH surge detection is as good as IUI after ovulation trigger if reliable LH kits are available, as I mentioned just now. Now, when somebody has a resistance, means she is not showing the good follicles. It may be PCOS. Then you change out to letrozole. Letrozole is the first choice in PCOS and not clomiphene citrate. However, you can add metformin 500 mg 3 times in PCOS. And of course, you can also add gonadotropin. How do we add? As a gynecologist, you know, you don't give too much of it. You give 5 days of these tablets and give 3 days of gonadotropin. That's enough. Day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is tablet. 7, 8, 9, that's enough. Or day 7 and 9, only 2 days. You'll get good follicles because I believe in reducing the cost for my patients, and you can't go on making them spend every day gonadotropin. It's like doing IVF. So I just give day 7, day 8, day 9, or day 7. How much? 75. 75 internal units per day, only 2 doses, 7 and 9. You get very good follicles, you'll get good endometrium, you get success as well. So letrozole and tamoxifen I don't use. Letrozole we use. So failure to conceive is called as clomiphene failure. So resistance is different from failure. However, we know 80% of them ovulate, 40% conceive within 6 cycles, 10% conceive, once again 10% per cycle, and no increase in ectopic pregnancy because they have been given some clomiphene citrate. However, there are some adverse effects. You should know that point. Hot flashes like a menopausal symptom because anti-estrogen, they come with pretty sweating and all that. I had a patient, she didn't come to me, she had a little bit of blur in her vision. She went to ophthalmology department. Then we have that on the computer, you can see where all they're gone, EMR we have. I said, why did you go to ophthalmology? No, sir, I'm not able to see. I said, that's because of the tablet I've given you. So, clomiphene citrate can cause blurring of vision, double vision, and so many problems. That is why if they have an ophthalmological problem, don't give clomiphene citrate. If they have complaint, please stop it. If it doesn't subside down, then you refer to ophthalmologist. You know, optic atrophy is a very rare problem. Breast tenderness, discomfort, nausea as like any other drug. So it can also have a deleterious effect on the endometrium. I always say 10 millimeters. We never get 10 millimeters in revelations, at least 7, if not 8. 8 is good. But sometimes 5 or 6 millimeter means your drug is not having a deleterious effect. You can't give again clomiphene. You have to give letrozole in the next cycle so that the follicles are good, endometrium is good. So adverse effects are also same, multiple births, no increase in congenital abnormalities, increased risk of spontaneous abortion compared to spontaneous pregnancy a little bit, of course, mild OHSS, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. Now letrozole, those off-label but now it's allowed in the country to use it. It's an aromatase inhibitor. The dose is 2.5 milligram once a day or even twice a day, same 5 days from day 2. Now, approved in 1997, it's a non-steroidal oral aromatase inhibitor. No negative adverse effects on endometrial thickness as well as cervical mucus and less chance of multiple pregnancies. Of course, theoretical risk of birth defects, but it has been disproved. Now, how does it act? You know, normally what happens is to get estrogen, it should be androgen. Androgen is precursor. So when you give aromatase inhibitor, this gets suppressed. Estrogen gets suppressed. Thereby, the loss of negative feedback, increased FSH, and of course, induction of ovulation occurs. Now, the next is gonadotropin. There are many. You know, the long back it started with those nuns in the nunnery. All the Europe nuns were passing urine and they were collecting in the bottle, going to the company. They were extracting gonadotropin. So that means that urine had FSH and LH and impurities. That's just called as human menopausal gonadotropin. Not all nuns. Only the menopausal nuns are doing that. So this menopausal urine has impurities. HMG is the cheapest. Will have impurities, but I think it's good. If all these ultimately work very well. If you have a PCO patient, you may not use that. I still use HMG sometimes, but you can do pure FSH. A little more costly, and the costliest and the fashion is recombinant FSH. Richer the class, I'll say take the fashionable drug. This is expensive, but you can afford it. So the best would be recombinant FSH, but I think all three are equally good because we can't put down any drug because they've all come from ages, getting purified. So you should understand that when you use HMG, it has FSH and LH. Both are same. If it says 75 IU HMG, it has 75 FSH, 75 LH. So you can't give too much of that in a PCO patient where there's too much of LH already there. So you should know that both subunits are almost similar. The little difference is there. But you have to monitor. You can't monitor. You cannot say take clomiphene for 6 months and come later. Take gonadotropin. You cannot. You should call them for follicular monitoring because the follicular imaging is important. Estradiol we don't do for simple IUI cases, but I would do for IVF cases. Requires ovulation trigger, as I said, and also requires luteal support if you have used gonadotropin. And of course, increased pregnancy rate and higher chance of cancellation as well. Now, HCG is the trigger. You want to break that follicle, you can give any of these non-recombinant or recombinant LH basically. You will find there is no evidence of difference in clinical outcome between urinary and recombinant gonadotrophins used for induction of final follicular maturation. Additional factors should be considered when choosing gonadotropin type, including safety, cost, and drug availability. So if you look at the first picture there, lots of antral follicles. You count how many are there. The count should be at least 8 to 10. If somebody has 4, it means less. Somebody has 15, it has more. So again 10. Why should you know that point? Because using gonadotropin, use less if there are too many follicles, use more if there are less follicles. It's common sense. So if you get a good follicle as from the picture there, you'll find that's a very good follicle there. You see that the nice dominant follicle. You can see that. We always measure from maximum to the maximum area. I measure only one diameter. Some people measure 3 times and divide by 3. I don't have that kind of time. I just measure one line and say that is 18 millimeters. So look at the endometrium on this side. Beautiful triple line. It's a very, very good endometrium. 3 lines. And where do we measure? We measure here. 1 centimeter below the fundus measurement will be taken because that's an implantation area. So I always measure there. Again, 8 to 10 millimeter from myometrial endometrial junction to the opposite side would be ideal. But you never have this picture. Ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. It's terrible and things will go wrong. Now, when you get mature follicle of 70 to 18 millimeters, clomiphene induced will be a little more, 18 to 20 millimeters, and the functional maturity may be achieved with about 22 to 24 millimeters. You can still wait. A good follicle has a thin wall, regular round shape, and no ecogenesis in the lumen, as you see there. There's a lot of nice blood supply all over there, and you'll find accumulus mass sometimes is seen. I'm routinely doing blood supply now, even for my patients with IUIs and so on. IVF, of course, blood supply is usually good. But when the follicle maturity is attained, I never used to do that. I just follicle do IUI. But now I do the measurement of the blood. The blood flow, I started doing these indices. Resistance index. The resistance must go down during ovulation. If it's maintained in a high resistance, it's not good. And the peak systolic velocity, the blood supply should be very good. Again, 10. More than 10 centimeter means she's about to ovulate and she'll ovulate quickly. This is the time basically LH starts about 48 hours before. So I said LH positive means 48 hours later she'll rupture, sometimes even earlier. So resistance index during the follicular phase, it actually goes down from 0.5 to 0.4, and that's the time she's going to ovulate quickly. Just prior to eruption, the vascularity surrounding the follicle increases along with its velocity. Now look at this diagram. Somebody has 18 millimeter follicle, but very little blood flow. It's not good. Maybe you should add gonadotropin in the next cycle because we want the blood to go all over. But you will find, I always wait for at least 50% of the follicle must be surrounded by blood. Only then I'll give HCG. I may be 14 days, maybe 15 days, maybe 16 days. I wait till the blood supply becomes better. And if you have a facility to do this, nothing like that. One thing is for sure, look at the third picture there. I don't like this kind of blood supply. The whole follicle is full of blood. That will cause hematoma. The blood will go inside and bleed and cause a kind of collection. So there will be some corpus luteum hemorrhage next day. So I don't like this too much of blood supply. Maybe a half of it would be ended. Endometrium also must be seen on the bottom side. I want the blood supply to the endometrium as well. If there is something wrong with the blood supply, something is wrong with endometrium, you have to evaluate. Today, Nilesh was showing a lot of hysteroscopy. In those cases, where endometrium is poor, not getting good blood supply, you have to put in a hysteroscope and check what's wrong. Maybe some additions or maybe sometimes tuberculosis. So once again, pre-systolic velocity follows the rise in LH by about 12 hours. Increases 29 hours before the time of follicular rupture and continues for another 72 hours after the corpus luteum is formed. What does it mean? Marked increase of pre-systolic velocity around the follicle in the presence of relatively constant index of pulsatility index could be a sign of follicular maturity. Don't worry about too much of this. As long as the PSP is increasing, good, and then the blood supply is all over, I think you give HCG or wait. So the perifollicular flow, as I mentioned, not all parts of the follicle wall are equally perfused at the time of ovulation. There's a marked decrease of blood flow at the apex of the follicle. If the whole follicle has complete flow, not good, it will cause hemorrhage and corpus luteal hemorrhage. So endometrial growth, as I mentioned, 5 millimeters at the beginning, it grows on 2 millimeters per day, and it becomes a nice triple layer. And of course, I've shown you all this part. Now, vascularity is important to know. Endometrium, little bit in the endometrium will be zone 1. Zone 2 means more. Zone 3 will be completely towards the cavity there. And zone 4 is full. Blood supply is very good. Even in IVF cycle, if I get good endometrium, I know my pregnancies are going to be on the higher side. But I think we'll skip it. So ultrasound is a corpus luteum. Watch this, the second one. If you get the cobweb appearance, cobweb in the wall, exactly the cobweb appearance is hemorrhage. Don't get worried. Something like that, like line, 100 lines you draw there. It's just a hemorrhage here. It will go off. Next month it won't be there. So don't get worried saying, don't tell her you've got a cyst there. No, this is just a hemorrhage of the cobweb appearance. It will go off. So in an IVF cycle, the last 2-3 minutes of my talk, maybe natural cycle, difficult to do. Or you give clomiphene HMG and do, not good. Just HMG alone or pure FSH is at the best. Of course, the last two slides will be on just to make you understand. IVF is not an easy job because we don't want her to ovulate. If she ovulates, then we got miss all the eggs. We have given all the medicines, but I want the eggs to be in the follicle. How do we do that? Because the premature LH surge should not occur in an IVF cycle. I'm just introducing you to IVF because when you refer patients, you'll know how difficult induction of ovulation is by Nilesh and others for IVF. It's not easy at all. Because you may cancel the whole cycle with the LH surge. So how do we do that in clinical practice? The long protocol means you start from day 21, the first year. The previous month you start suppressing. GnRH analog, we give about 0.5 milligram per day, or sometimes more, 1 milligram. So many days. She'll menstruate next on day 1, day 2, but you continue. Look at the number. Continue this till she ovulates, not ovulate till the day of trigger. You add gonadotropin from second day. What does it mean? So many days of injection called as long protocol. Patients don't like this, nor I like it. So too many days, but it seems to be one of the good methods. So GnRH analog is suppressing ovulation, but you give gonadotropin from menstruation day till the ovulation time, and then you remove the eggs. But what is more popular is antagonist cycle. They don't have to come previous month; they come this month on the second day. We start gonadotropin as shown here, the first one there, and number 2, we give antagonist only for about 4 or 5 days. Look at that. Around day 5, 4 days of stimulation. Day 5, you call her. It should be at least 14 millimeters. If 14 millimeters comes, means LH receptors come and she'll ovulate. You suppress that by giving antagonists of 0.25 milligram. Very simple criteria, 12 to 14 millimeters you get. And the estrogen is more than 300, 400 picogram. You should start antagonists because if you don't start, you will lose eggs. Even if you lose 1 egg out of 10, you are going to lose at least some of it. So there has been a paradigm shift. Of course, I'm not going to talk about IVF because I just show you some of the slides. See, in my clinical practice, I divide the patient into 3 groups. One is the normal young one, 25, 30 years, 34 years, up to 35, still call them young. And then there are good antral follicles of 8 to 10, and everything is good. In those cases, you start a small dose, 225 or maybe even less per day. This is for IVF. Another group which I don't like is the poor responders. They have only 4 or 5 eggs, and they whatever you do, nothing happens. Few eggs will come. In those cases, you start high dose, 375 to maybe more, 450. The third one, which is a dicey one, walking on the tightrope there, is a PCOS. You don't know who's going to respond, who's not going to respond, but I play it safe. Lot of follicle means I just start 150 IU. That means I have some simple rule. 150 for these people, 300 for the normal ones are 225, and the abnormal ones are 450. That is not the European standard. European standard says 150 for all, but it doesn't work, Nilesh. What do you say? Have you all seen 150 working for a normal patient? Yes, but not in all. So I think it's our own data. In India, either we don't get the proper drugs here, we get the seconds, I'm sure, in India, whereas in Europe, they get the best. I've seen that. 40 years, 150 units works well. It doesn't work here. So it's not to blame anything. Our people, either they're resistant to gonadotropin or their genetic makeup is different. So that's how it is. So the basically, I want to end by saying the present outlook towards controlled simulation is there has been a paradigm shift from aiming of maximum number of oocytes to adequate number of mature, good quality oocytes. That's what we should aim in a simple ovulation induction or, of course, for ART cycle. To summarize, all of us must have the basics of the physiology, understand the medications, very important. Normal growth of a healthy follicle approximately 2 millimeter per day. This is about 18 to 24 millimeters ideal. Perifollicular growth about 3/4 of it is ideal. And the resistance index goes down before ovulation. The presystolic velocity also goes up. And then you'll find endometrial findings are absolutely important to say that we're on the right path. Thank you very much for your invitation and for your listening. And it's been a pleasure to be with you all.
Thank you, sir. It was a very elaborate and informative lecture. I would like you to opine on the extended use of clomiphene, which some doctors are doing in periphery. Whether it is a good or whether it is a bad for our own ovulation.
Yes, it's a good question, man. You see, you can give it for more than 5 days, 7 days, and 10 days. But I find the endometrium goes down in extended clomiphene. From what was actually 8 millimeter can become 7. So when I find the same person monitoring the endometrium tells me it has gone down, it's not a good choice. Why are we giving extended clomiphene? Because if the 5 days is not enough, we give extended. But it's not for months together. Maybe one more month you try. But otherwise, I don't think it's very useful. But I would add on gonadotropin in that next time.
Thank you, sir. That was a very, very nice lecture and lot of take-home points that you gave. You mentioned about the nice LS surge ultrasound PSV is more than 10. It is pre-ovulatory. So only for the junior colleagues, when it is pre-ovulatory, do the iSure or the LH test, urine test, and then do IUI 24 hours later, and not 36 hours as with HCG. I think you will agree with that.
Yes, you can time it because sometimes I do double IUI because I'm not sure whether it's ovulated or not. But sometimes difficult to collect twice.
Any questions from the audience?
I believe if there are no questions, there are only two possibilities. You either understood everything or you have not understood anything.
I think it was made very very simplified and very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was a very informative session. I would request Dr. Nilesh sir to kindly felicitate our chairpersons. So please can you come on stage? So just a minute, please. I would request Dr. Meenakshi ma'am to please felicitate Dr. Pratak sir.
It's like a Filmfare award.
I would request Dr. Nilesh sir to please felicitate our chairpersons. Dr. Meenu Agarwal ma'am.
All of you who are not POGS members, please become POGS members.
Dr. Uma Vanikade ma'am. Dr. Meenakshi Deshpande ma'am. Thank you everyone. I would request all our chairpersons to kindly settle in the audience. So moving forward with our next session. Our next session is on embryo transfer. Is it a rate with limiting step in IVF success? By our very own Dr. Durga Rao ma'am. She will be presenting via Zoom. I would like to invite our chairpersons on stage for the next session. Dr. Dipshika Dwivedi ma'am. She's a director, Lifetime Hospital, Pune, senior consultant at Ruby Hall Clinic, Hinjawadi, assistant professor at Adesh Institute for Medical and Research Center, Punjab, lecturer of King George Medical College, Lucknow. Please come, Ma. I would like to invite our next chairperson, Dr. Rajendra Shitore, obstetrician gynecologist, infertility specialist, and endoscopic surgeon at TY Patil Medical College. Welcome, sir. I would request Dr. Dipshika Nideli ma'am to kindly introduce our next speaker.
The next session is by Dr. Durga Ramanan. She is a medical director and co-founder of Oasis Fertility. A specialist in reproductive medicine, MIS with overall 26 years of experience. Madam is a pioneer in research and practice of in vitro maturation treatment and fertility preservation from the prestigious McGill University in Canada. She has practiced in UK and Canada, underwent professional training in UK, and has several paper publications to her credit.
Introduction. And it's my absolute loss that I couldn't be there in person today. And my profuse apologies to Dr. Prakash Kumar. I was actually hoping to see you all that I couldn't be there in person today. Listening to Dr. Pratap Kumar has always been an absolute joy and an education in itself. And though I'm listening to him over Zoom, I would not prefer to be there in person. And no amount of thanks are really enough to appreciate Dr. Minu Agarwal and Dr. Nishan for their presence there and for really giving us the time, their precious time and helping us in this. Without much further ado, I'll go ahead with my presentation, which is about embryo transfer. So you can see the thank you slide, but I haven't started it, so looking at it from the beginning. I hope they are visible. Now, when we were planning this CNA, Dr. Nilesh wanted us to talk about embryo transfer. And to him, this aspect, which is embryo transfer, is it a very clinical step in IVF, was a concern that he had in terms of how do we improve success rates all across and how do we empower the clinicians who are staying at the CNA and give them the best tips and tricks in terms of embryo transfer. So when we're talking about live birth rates in IVF, we understand the two main aspects of it, which is the embryo quality, the receptivity of the uterus, and the efficiency of the whole process of embryo transfer. Now, embryo transfer, we understand, is the final and most crucial step of ART. And unfortunately, at this stage, we cannot blame anybody else. We cannot blame the patient, we cannot blame the embryologist, which is just the clinician doing the transfer who is ultimately responsible for it. And a lot of studies have also shown that the technique of PT can actually improve or deter the success rates that we show. And the most important aspect of an embryo transfer is to be as gentle as possible and as atraumatic as possible as well. Now, we've also seen that a poor PT technique may actually account for approximately 1/3 of the failures that we tend to see in assisted reproduction. Now, we've also seen that the kind of embryo transfer that is done, not just with the skill, but whether it was an easy embryo transfer or whether it was a difficult embryo transfer, also makes an impact in terms of the pregnancy data. So our endeavor as a clinician to do the embryo transfer are the first important aspect that we have to take care of is to see that we make the embryo transfer procedure as easy as possible. And frankly, we do have some time to plan an embryo transfer, which is why we need to take the further precautions. Now, the questions that need to be asked when we're doing an embryo transfer is who is doing it, how are they doing it, and what are the aspects of embryo transfer that we need to take care of. Now, the first question is who. And recently, approximately 3 years ago, there was a huge analysis that was done in terms of almost 20,000 transfers, and they looked at the different physicians who did the transfer, and one thing came across very vividly, and that was the transferring physician actually makes a lot of impact in terms of the ongoing pregnancy rate. Now, other than that, we also have to understand one most important aspect, and this really surprised me, is that a physician who performed worse than the average success rate, even with the number of transfers that they did or the number of years of their practice, did not actually make an improvement in their performance. Which means that when we need to start understanding the best technique of doing an embryo transfer because we can't assume that time is going to improve their performance. Now, the following aspects of embryo transfer that we're going to be discussing is based on three different documents. One is the guideline by the ASR. Then this was the embryo transfer techniques, which was again ASR document, as well as the latest meta-analysis, which was just last year in November, which gave us all the different aspects of an embryo transfer and the techniques, as well as the addendums that would help in terms of embryo transfer. Now, before we start an embryo transfer, what are the things that we need to take care of? And I would suggest that these 5 aspects have to be taken care of before we do an embryo transfer. That is, a woman when she comes to us with fertility, she is absolutely well and healthy. And this, I think, is a good opportunity for us to ensure that the general health and everything of her is also taken care of. Which means that the pap smear is done and we do not any vaginal infections through a complete analysis of her pelvis with an ultrasound. And if she's had any kind of a hysteroscopy or any kind of interventions in the past in terms of her uterine intervention, we need to have all of that information as well. And very important that we have the details of a more embryo transfer. Now, an ultrasound evaluation, like we all know, is the most important aspect. For us, for an fertility specialist, an ultrasound is almost like another link for us. It gives us so much information and aids us in ensuring that we provide the optimal, success rates to a patient. That our expertise and our experience with the ultrasound is in the shoulder. Now, why is ultrasound important for an embryo transfer? Well, when we are doing the process of IVF itself, an ultrasound should tell us and give us the details about the length of the uterine cavity and the cervical canal. And in fact, just when we do an assessment before the embryo transfer, that doesn't mean that an ultrasound is not important at the time of embryo transfer. It is still important, and the reason why we say that is because there's actually a discrepancy of approximately 1 to 2 centimeters of this evaluation that is done prior versus the day that the embryo transfer itself is done. Now, whether that is because we make the woman keep a comfortably full bladder, or whether there are certain changes in the bowel movements or something, but the day that the embryo transfer is done, we cannot completely rely on the baseline length of the cervical canal or the uterine length. You should still do it again at that point in time. But the reason why an ultrasound evaluation is important is because it gives you the cervical and uterine angles so that you're prepared and you understand how best to straighten that angle. It also gives you the uterine cavity length and direction as we've spoken about. And obviously a 3D ultrasound, which is another thing which has crept slowly into our daily practice. It is no longer an additional thing. I think on a baseline, most of our women tend to have a 3D ultrasound with our centers, and this gives us all the additional information regarding any uterine pathologies. Now, a trial or a mock embryo transfer also is extremely important, and this can be done before the stimulation or during the stimulation as well. But it's very important for us to know because it actually helps in improving your pregnancy rates. What are the things that we should be looking for? The direction of the cervical canal and the direction of the cervix to the uterine cavity, the angulation that is there. Also evaluate the length and also help you in choosing the most appropriate catheter. Now, if the negotiation is going to be very difficult with a smooth catheter, then you will have to consider either using a stilet or even sometimes some different catheters. Now, we find it very useful to map the course, and this is what we normally tend to do. So, if anybody is even doing a mock transfer, if that same doctors who are doing the embryo transfer, a pictorial representation like this to understand which way the cervical canal is and which way the uterine cavity is in relation to the cervical canal gives us a great understanding of how to make the negotiation as automatic as possible. There are some people who also use diagrams like this, which gives them an understanding of how the uterus is in relation to the cervix and the angulation as well. Another thing is also to understand whether there is any uterine pathology that can disturb the, the movement of the catheter into the uterine cavity. And again, a pictorial representation is much better than just a description that is given. So on the day of the embryo transfer, what are the things that we have to take care of? These are the 5 pointers for us. One is to ensure that we give them 5 instructions that they should come with a comfortable bladder. There is no need for fasting unless anesthesia is going to be utilized. And this is something that in your mock transfer you should be able to understand. Ensure that consents are there. And at the end of the year, it's extremely important that we ensure that we follow all these parameters to the T. And we discuss the number and grade of the embryos that are being transferred, and if there are any excess embryos, how are they going to be frozen. And it's always important, in my experience, to have a discussion before you get the patient ready for embryo transfer, for them to actually visualize the embryos that are going to be put back. And if there's a frozen embryos, how have they thawed? How was the picture of these embryos before they were frozen? How are they now after thawing? What is the number? What's the quality? And what the chances are of pregnancy. I think having that discussion before the actual embryo transfer also allays some of the fear and anxiety that the patient tends to have. And it also gives you the opportunity to discuss various other options that could help in terms of implantation like embryo glue. Now, after that, I think it's important for the clinician to sit back, look at the notes and see whether they've had a previous mock transfer, a hysteroscopy is done, and whether there were any notes for a difficult embryo transfer, and see how best we can make it as non-traumatic as possible. Now, before you take the patient for the embryo transfer, there are certain things that we tend to do in our practice. One is we tend to give them a progesterone injection before the embryo transfer to see whether that can ease the uterine contractions and therefore make the embryo expulsion much less likely. And we also tend to use piroxicam towards the same. We also tend to give them diazepam to just give them a bit of relaxant, and it also works as a muscle relaxant. Propofol anesthesia says, less than 1% of our transfers are done with anesthesia. Most of them tend to have transfers without anesthesia. And prophylactics, atosiban. Now, this is something which again has been, debated a lot. Now, in our practice, we tend to use atosiban as a uterine relaxant only if we tend to see uterine movements on scan on the day of embryo transfer. We consider it definitely in supplementary who's got recurrent implantation failures as well. Now, what does the meta-analysis that was done about 5 years ago tell us about atosiban? It says that it improves your implantation rates as well as clinical pregnancy rate. And in fact, a recent meta-analysis that I was talking about, which was published just last year in November, also tells us that in clinical pregnancy there seems to be some improvement, but the same kind of improvement, unfortunately, is not seen in terms of live birth. What about NSAIDs? Though we are using it in our practice, we have seen that most of the evidence does not support NSAIDs as helping us in terms of implantation. What about alternate options? What about acupuncture? Well, the evidence still not is supporting acupuncture, nor analgesics, nor anesthesia. or also other kinds of interventions like massage therapy or transcutaneous electrical acupoint. Neither antibiotics are required at the time of embryo transfer. Now, the positioning of the patients, I think, is since the woman is away, it should be kept at a point that she feels more comfortable, she feels as comfortable as possible. Second, the visualization for the clinician also should not be impacted. Now, how does a surgeon prepare themselves other than obviously the routine, hand washing and the hygiene that is involved? There was this question that came about to see whether powder gloves were actually going to be, determined in terms of embryo transfer implantation versus non-powder gloves. And the evidence so far has not supported non-powder gloves, but that is the routine practice that we all have at our clinical centers. Now, coming to the embryo transfer trolley, it's very important that we keep whatever is required on hand and not rush around looking for things. When a patient is waiting to get, she's on the table and she's waiting to get the embryo transfer. Now, how do you prepare the patient? Well, the different aspects that we will be looking at is first to wash the vulva, which is normal saline, and it should be warm. We don't want the woman to, cringe and move because of the coldness of the solution that is being used. We also use a warm speculum and also use only saline to just lubricate the speculum rather than any other things like KY jelly or other kind of things. And it's extremely important, and I make this a point to actually build it into the fellows, is that please do not open the blades wider than it's required. What you are really doing and the speculum is doing for you is to actually visualize the cervix. You do not, that is not the time for you to sit and inspect the fornices of the vaginal walls. All of this should have been done before. So the speculum aspect is only for you to visualize the cervix as well as possible. Now you clean the vagina and the cervix with either saline or media. We tend to use more of saline rather than media. And next comes the removal of mucus. And most important, as we are trying to prepare a patient and get the thing ready, you should have your assistant ready with the ultrasound abdominal probe. Now the point is regarding this, and I find this is extremely important to make the whole process of embryo transfer easy, is one, bring the patient down as far as possible on the bed so that when you're moving the speculum, there wouldn't be any interruptions or any obstacles. Use the smallest and the shortest speculum to access the cervix because you don't want the woman to be in pain. It should be as comfortable as an ultrasound scan that is being done, and embryo transfer should not be any more difficult. And the speculum should be positioned in such a way that it minimizes the angle between the cervix and the fungus. And keep the bladder full up to the top of the cervix. Now, if you can see in the second, diagram, you see that the cervix has been pulled in so much that it is actually separating the vaginal wall. And when you do this, you will lose the advantage of having the speculum exactly in the vaginal fornices so that the cervical uterine angle can be manipulated to your advantage. Now, coming to cervical mucus. It's very important that we remove it. Why? Because if it was embryo retention, it can also, if the mucus is there, even after expelling, because of the mucus, you can drag the embryos back when they're destroying the catheter, and can also be a source of bacterial contamination. For these three reasons, we would suggest that removal of cervical mucus be done. And there are different ways you can do it. You can either use a cotton wig on a wig, or you can use a catheter, you can use an IUI catheter, you can use an ETO, sterilized, embryo catheter, or a syringe, such that you are aspirating the mucus. But it's extremely important that in our zeal to remove the cervical mucus, you are not causing damage, causing bleeding, because that itself can also hamper your implantations. What does the evidence say regarding the cervical mucus cleaning? There's a great deal of evidence which says there is a benefit to removing it. But also, please don't worry when you are removing the catheter and you see mucus on the catheter, that doesn't mean that it lowers your pregnancy chances. Now, the catheters that need to be used, I think there is absolutely no equivocalness about this in the sense that only soft catheters should be used, and rigid catheters are only for the difficult embryo transfers, but not for routine embryo transfers. And I think all kinds of evidence points towards that. The three different catheters that we tend to use in our practice is the Navitec, the Cook, and the Wallace. These are, and recently even in kinetics, so it's not been available quite some time now. So these are the catheters, and the reason why we chose these catheters is one, because it is soft, and the second, the inner catheter, which is the soft catheter, the thinner it is, the better it is in terms of causing as less trauma as possible to the endometrium as such. Now coming to the loading of the catheter again, and the placement of the catheters. Now, ultrasound guided embryo transfers, as we have already discussed, is the way forward. The time for clinical touch and understanding and putting the catheter mid cavity, assuming you're in the right place, is no longer advised. Ultrasound should be the way to do it. It gives you accurate and atraumatic positioning of the catheter tip near the fundus, and obviously it is going to make the whole process much easier and cleaner. Now the disadvantages towards this is you will obviously need a second operator to hold the probe in the abdomen. It takes a longer time for you to execute, and you have to ask the woman to fill your bladder up. And some people cannot hold their bladder if it's reasonably full for long periods of time. And the last thing is we really don't know what effect the ultrasound has on the screen implantation embryo. Now, like I said, there is no debate on this in terms of the fact that ultrasound should be the way forward in terms of doing the embryo transfer. Now, when we're talking about ultrasound, obviously we have the option of transabdominal and transvaginal. Now, in a transvaginal, what should happen is after you clean the vagina and you introduce the speculum, after you introduce the speculum, you will put the outer sheath right as much as possible up to the internal pores. Then you will remove the speculum and you will introduce the vaginal probe. And then with the vaginal probe, you will reposition the outer catheter as close to the internal pores as possible. And then the inner catheter will be threaded through it. Now, why transvaginal? Transvaginal because it can significantly increase the percentage of your pregnancy, and it also facilitates in terms of difficult transfers. But in routine practice, we tend to use more of abdominal ultrasound to aid us in our transfers, and transvaginal is only when there is a difficulty or we are not able to visualize properly in obese patients. So, by transvaginal enhanced visualization, we don't need a full bladder. There is no need for a vaginal speculum, and cause discomfort to the patient, and confidence and comfort of the patient has also increased. And we also tend to find this slightly better in obese women. Now, what about the precautions that has to be taken when you're putting the catheter into the cervix? Now, these 2 points I think are extremely important, at least for the beginners, is that when you're putting in a catheter, you really don't know with these soft catheters whether it is coiling inside the cervical canal. So it's a very simple test of rotating the catheter by 360 degrees. If it recoils, it means it had coiled inside the cervical canal. But if you're rotating it and if it's still in place, that means you're actually inside the uterine cavity. So please do this when you are in doubt or your visualization on ultrasound is not accurate. Now, catheter loading, which is something which the embryologists help us in doing, there are 2 different ways of doing it. One is a direct transfer, which means that they come with the outer and the inner sheath loaded with the embryo and your transfer is to be done. Or we do the after loading, in which the outer sheath is kept till the internal os, and then the catheter comes once we are in place with the loaded embryos in the inner catheter. And this is something that we universally follow because we don't want to end up fiddling with a loaded embryo catheter if your course of the cervical canal is going to be difficult. Now, when we're talking also about the loading technique, we tend to use the 3-dot technique, which means that the embryo with the media is actually buffered by hair gaps. Now, why is that important? It helps because it decreases the chances of the embryo retention when they're doing a transfer itself. And it also, sort of protects the embryo from the mucus that it could encounter during its passage. Now, there was also the amount of the fluid in the embryo transfer catheter which can impact. And when they really looked at literature, they found that if your volume is more than 50 or 60 ml, there's a possibility of expansion because there's so much fluid that is being inserted into the cavity. But if it is less than 10, there's also a possibility that it can lead to miscarriages or other issues. And therefore, the ideal volume that is suggested is anywhere from 20 to 30 up to 40 microliters. Now, what about the placement of the catheter tip? I think there has been so much research being done here in this way, and conclusions have already come out to say that you have to keep your catheter at least approximately 1 to 2 centimeters from the fundus to aid and give you the best impact in terms of pregnancy rates. And all of this evidence is clearly. There's also evidence to say that immediate withdrawal does not decrease the pregnancy rate. Because initially, what we used to do is we used to put the catheter, inject it, and wait for a minute or so while everybody is getting fidgety, including your patient, and then slowly withdraw. But now, immediate withdrawal has not shown to impact your pregnancy rates. And also important for you to understand that though you're cleaning the mucus, sometimes, if it's very higher up in the cervical canal, and when you're drawing the catheter out, you see some mucus on the catheter, please don't be worried because it hasn't shown to lower your pregnancy rates. Now, this distance is the most important thing, that is 1 to 2 centimeters from the fundus. And that's how you should be placing your catheter. And as you can see in this diagram, what's important is the tip of the catheter to the fundus, and that distance should be at least between 1 to 2 centimeters. Now, what about retained embryos? Well, there's only one technique for retained embryos, and that is to transfer them as soon as you can. And don't get again worried or worry your patient because they have not, when the embryos are transferred immediately, it has not shown to compromise your pregnancy chances. But how do we avoid it? Well, we can avoid it by keeping the pressure on the plunger when you're injecting it as steady as possible and as firm as possible. And when you're withdrawing your catheter, please don't use jerky movements. Please do it very, very slowly so that you are not with the negative pressure drawing the embryos back again. Now, what do we do after the embryo transfer? Because we've spoken about what needs to happen till now. Well, what sometimes we tend to do is once the catheter is being drawn out, we loosen the screw on the speculum so that the blades fall on the cervical lips. And it keeps it as close as possible without causing pain to the patient. I think that's the most important aspect. What about bed rest? Well, there's enough. In fact, it's grade A evidence to say that bed rest is no longer advised for women after embryo transfer. And there has been enough evidence towards that. So to summarize my talk, what's the first thing that we need to do when we are doing an embryo transfer is place a warm speculum, flush and clean the vagina with either cotton swab or gauze using media or saline. Carefully, gently remove the cervical mucus and pick the most appropriate catheter and ensure that the embryologist and you are in sync in terms of how the catheter works, who brings the loaded bench, the loaded catheter being brought in, and so on and so forth. We tend to do mostly an afterward transfer, but these advantages and disadvantages, I think, as a clinician and the embryologist need to come to terms with that. Very important that when you are placing the tip of the catheter, it should be at least 1 to 2 centimeters away from the fundus. After you expel the embryos, ensure that your thumb on the plunger is as firm and as hard as possible. And please, when you're withdrawing the catheter, it has to be done very, very slowly rather than with jerky movements. Catheter has to be checked to see whether there are any retained embryos, and the patient can ambulate immediately after embryo transfer, and there is no need for bed rest. Now, just I've also sort of summarized everything and brought these into grade A, B, and C evidences. So, what are important is doing an embryo transfer to the abdominal or vaginal ultrasound using the most softest catheters that are possible. And grade B evidence is removing your cervical mucus, placing the embryo 1 to 2 centimeters from the fundus, and withdraw the catheter as slowly as possible, but immediately. There is no reason for us to wait longer. Grade C evidence is based on the position of the external catheter, but I think here again you should be extremely careful in seeing that because the outer sheath is usually a little firmer and can have rough edges. So it's always best that you do not move beyond the internal pause. And the rate of injection also, there is no evidence regarding that, but a slow rate of injection for obvious reasons would work better for us. The length of the procedure, which means that once the embryo comes out of the incubator, once it's loaded, till the time it is being expelled, we need to keep that period of timing as short as possible. So the embryos should not be either in the dish, in your laminar flow, or lying in the catheter while you're trying to negotiate. We need to avoid these things when we are planning for the embryo transfer. And regarding the catheter rotation, after you expel it, just to see that it doesn't get stuck to your catheter also doesn't have any evidence to actually ensure that it's going to help us. But these are some of the small things, and every small step helps in terms of improving your implantation. The most important thing also is, because there are so many people involved in this procedure, you're an embryologist, you have a helper and theatre, you have the person who's holding your abdominal probe, you yourself, so the conversations that are happening in the important, because that woman, poor thing, she's undergone so much for this one particular process. The whole thing culminates in an embryo transfer. And I think it's very important for her to be psychologically also understand that she's in the right hands, in the right place. So please differ from using things like that. Oh, I think I'm in the right place. Oh, I don't think this looks right. Oh, this is really hard. Why is your uterus doing this? Why is your bladder like this? What is this? And making exclamation like this. These are the things that actually reduce the confidence that the patient might have in your expertise, though you're as good as anybody else. So all the best with your future endeavors in embryo transfer, but I hope this helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durga ma'am, for such a wonderful lecture.
So all the best with your future endeavors in embryo transfer, but I hope this. Thank you.
It has all A to Z of embryo transfer. Will clear take her lessons. Thank you, ma'am.
Any questions? Ma'am, I have one question. When do you prefer to do the mock transfer? In the same cycle or previous cycle? Any question? Ma'am, I have a question. When do you prefer to do the mock transfer? In the same cycle or previous cycle?
Frankly, mock transfer is something that we usually tend to do in the cycle before.
Okay. And any experience with
So we
reckoning
can
of
do the
embryos?
mock transfer in the cycle before. Because I wouldn't want to start a cycle. I mean, most of our embryo transfers are frozen embryo transfers. So I wouldn't want a patient to start an embryo transfer cycle and then do a mock and then tell her, what, there is a problem, I need to do something. Before. And I find that the most important time that you can do an embryo transfer, a mock embryo transfer, is just after your OPE. Because that gives you the chance to understand. Because by the time you finish your, egg pickup, your bladder is reasonably full. It is not completely full, nor is it completely empty, because you would have spent about half an hour with it. So, it's the time of OPU is one time that we can do an mock embryo transfer, or you can do it prior. And because the reason why we need to do this prior is because if there is an obstruction, if there is something that you need to consider doing, like a hysteroscopy, then you have time to do that rather than start a cycle and midway tell her that there is a problem and I need to sort this out.
Thank you, ma'am. And are there more chances of retaining embryos if we use the embryo glue? Is it like that? And are there more chances of retaining embryos if we use the embryo glue? Is it like that?
Well, the embryo glue does seem to help in terms of implantation. That's what the meta-analysis says. And frankly, we had our own data which we had presented in essay, which looked at embryo glue, and we found that embryo glue did matter, at least in terms of the recurrent implantation failure patients. So in those patients, use of embryo glue did help in terms of implantation.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the nice elaborative lecture on the embryo transfer, which is really a rate limiting step because a badly done embryo transfer can spoil the whole cycle and the whole purpose. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for your ever so enlightening session. We really miss your presence out here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would request Dr. Nilesh Prasad sir to kindly felicitate our chairpersons. I would request our chairpersons to kindly be comfortable in the audience as we move forward with our next session. So prior to moving forward with our next session, I would kindly ask all of you to download the Kahoot app because we have an exciting quiz with attractive prizes coming soon. So moving forward with our next session. Our next session is on newer advances in IVF lab by Dr. Krishna Chaitanya sir. I would request the chairpersons for the next session to kindly come on stage. Dr. Chaitanya Atkar. Next we have Dr. Upendra Sathe sir, senior gynecologist with over 40 years of experience. Welcome, sir. Next, we have Dr. Ramesh Gaikwad, sir, obstetrician gynecologist, infertility specialist, and endoscopic surgeon. Welcome, sir. I would request Dr. Ramesh Gaikwad, sir, to kindly introduce our next speaker.
Good afternoon. I call upon next speaker and introduce him, Dr. Krishna Chaitanya. He is scientific head and clinical embryologist, Oasis Fertility. He has done diploma in reproductive medicine from Germany, masters of clinical embryology from Monash, Australia, and he is expert in clinical embryology and cryopreservation of gametes and embryos. He has lot many studies as well as presentations on embryology and its innovative approaches to improve success rates of IVF treatments. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for that kind introduction. Very good afternoon to everyone. I'm sure we're running late and I promise to keep it short. That's quite a challenging thing thrown at me, but I'll do my best to keep it short. So, well, I'm sure you had wonderful teachers telling you a lot of science. I think you can sit back and relax. I don't have too much of gyan to give. I love embryology for the fact that it is science, but it's also an art. So you can have fun in the lab when everything goes well. So where is this all emerging? I think as medical students or when we were in school and college, all of this sounded fiction. They said you could design babies and we said, what nonsense. And now I think it's become a reality and that's what evidence does. And let's see where we are marching in the year 2023. So I think 45 years, and then look at the way the whole field has progressed. From birth of Louis Brown to now it's talking about gene editing. The science has really progressed and that's what is helping a lot of couples complete their dream of childhood. And let's quickly divide the advances into what's happening with the ovary and egg, what's happening with the sperm and the embryo per se. So with the oocyte, I think the most discussed, the emerging and the most helpful thing is the oncofertility. Uh, because I'm only talking about the emerging trends. I think Pratap sir spoke so much about the whole endocrinology and how the stimulation and getting the eggs and all of that, what we routinely do, but what are we doing next? I think right now ART is just not focused on treating the fertility or giving them pregnancy and childbirth. I think the application is diversifying. And fertility preservation is really catching up. It's just not oncofertility. A lot of people wanting to do social freezing. In fact, people who are at a risk of a poor reserve or early menopause, they say, preserve the ovarian tissue, later transplant it, and that would probably take care of the whole problem of menopause. So I think that's where we're progressing, and thanks to a lot of scientists who have helped us with this whole science of freezing the eggs and the ovarian tissue. Now, no longer oocyte freezing is experimental, and so is the ovarian tissue. I think we can do much better with ovarian tissue cryopreservation. There are pregnancies in childbirth, but I'm sure there's much more to do. But oocyte freezing is no longer experimental. It's now a routine clinical procedure. So that's a quick snapshot of the amount of fertility preservations we have personally done at Oasis in the last decade. The number of semen freezings, oocyte, and testicular freezings, what we have done, and there are patients who've come back and conceived and have had their dream of parenthood with their own self gametes. So oncofertility and fertility preservation has been one of the emerging trends when it comes with the gametes. So that was the ASRM statement way back, which said that oocyte freezing is no longer experimental and it's a routine clinical practice. And this has been our experience at Oasis using frozen oocyte for various indications. And we had a live birth of close to 47%. The American registry, which is the SART registry, puts across their live birth at 43%, and Oasis is closer to it at 47%. And I think that's something that we routinely use at Oasis as well. In vitro maturation, I think I would say this is a newer technique that's been in the field. It's been there as early as 1980s, but for various reasons there have been a lot of setbacks. Again, this procedure is back in limelight. So there's Professor Rob Gilchrist and Professor Johan Smith and Michael DeVos at the Brussels University who are working on a newer way of doing this in vitro maturation. Technically we know not giving hormone and getting the same outcome. That sounds like an amazing thing, but we know there are a lot of setbacks. And this is where in vitro maturation really helps. And in present day, where we're talking about no OHSS, I think in vitro maturation probably is the way ahead. No woman would want to take these hormones and have all those side effects. The reason for dropout in most cases is not the finance. It is the whole journey that they've had these hormones and side effects, which kind of discourages the woman to come back for another cycle. And IVF is a wonderful alternative. I'm not saying it's going to replace IVF, but in indicated cases, I'm sure IVF has a place. And we have been the only Indian clinic to have a collaboration with the Brussels University, and we are proud to say that the first IVM born through Kappa IVM, which is a biphasic IVM, the newer way of doing IVM, we had our first live birth at Oasis. So all that collaboration is now fruitful. IVM is a routine clinical process that we do offer to all our patients. So if there's any PCO patient or you think needs IVM, you can get in touch with Dr. Neelesh. Dr. Neelesh will help to see how best this patient can get the IVM treatment. So what's happening new with the sperm? That was with the ovary and the egg that we spoke about. So I think sperm DNA fragmentation, of the various sperm functional assays we're talking about, looks like the sperm DNA fragmentation has slightly better clinical application. And we know that it's detrimental when the DNA is fragmented. No, DNA when fragmented is detrimental. We all know that. There's no ambiguity with that. But how do you manage? What is the best way to do, and how would it help? Is where right now the research is still wanting to do much more. There are a lot of things that you could do on the sperm, of which max and microfluidics are the recent methods of sperm processing to get the sperm with the best DNA. And Oasis has had its own little experience which we've published, which I'll show to you. But treat the man, treat the sperm. That's what we call when it is raised sperm DNA fragmentation. So treating the man, you could take the testicular sperm and see if it helps, and that's our 10 years data. We've been using testicular sperm for the indication of raised sperm DNA fragmentation, which was accepted at the ASRM and published in Fertility Stability. And when we've used the testicular sperm, I think we managed to give them a live birth of 53%. So all those little misconception that testicular sperm would be detrimental, it's not mature, it might not be the best outcome. We published our data, it's equal to what ejaculated sperm can actually put across. So our data says ejaculated testicular sperm should not really matter, and especially in cases where there is DNA fragmentation, it can be a better option. I'm not saying it's the best option, because it's still not proven that TISA is the best way. It is encouraged. And we also looked at, with testicular sperm, we looked at our decades experience. This data was again accepted as an abstract and now is published with Journal of JHRS, which is the Indian journal. We've put across our decades experience of only using testicular sperm for ICSI. We knew that live births were happening, but is it safe? We wanted to look at the maternal and fetal complications, because in severe male factor, if you're using testicular sperm, would it affect the outcome? There's been a hypothesis put across saying that if there's male factor infertility, especially if you're using testicular sperm, it can affect the placentation and there could be placental diseases, the incidence going up, and hence we looked at our data and it did not really say that. It was quite assuring. Neither did it affect the birth weights. The congenital anomalies were no higher or alarming compared to the ejaculated sperm exceeds or the natural conceptions. And what is the normal trend? We always have this concern, IVF, there could be a higher incidence of anomalies. Let's look at what the data says. It's 9% incidence where the anomalies can happen in IVF conceptions versus 6.6 in natural conceptions. There's probably no major difference. The data so far looks okay. I'm not saying it's the best and let's do IVF for every patient who's coming, but our misconception that IVF can increase congenital anomalies is something that we need to relook at this whole thing. We need to be watchful. I'm not saying IVF is the future ahead, but where indicated if you've done it, it looks quite assured. Again, our data which I just spoke, which all look good. The second thing is we want to look at fresh versus frozen testicular tissue. Again, they say, frozen samples might not give you the best outcome. That's been the way we have perceived it in the past. But again, this data published with Fertility Stability with our own student Sakshi, who's the embryologist right now in the Pune team. Her data, her study said that fresh or frozen TISA gave us similar live birth rates. We just didn't look at pregnancy rate, we looked at live birth rates. So if your protocol of how you freeze and you thaw and you handle the sperm in the lab is standardized, fresh or frozen sperm or testicular sperm should absolutely not make any difference, and that's been our decades experience at Oasis. So where is this going? Take home message. For all people where we're doing a trial teaser for azoospermia, please ensure you get in touch with one of the IVF centers and make sure the embryologist is picking the testicular tissue. If they see sperm, it has to be frozen. Doing a trial TISA and saying there's sperm, and later when you do IVF stimulation, redoing a TISA is probably not the way you should be handling the patient the current day. When you're doing the trial tissue, that should be the one and done thing. You get enough tissue, you freeze multiple vials, and you do ICSIs with that, and that should give you the best outcome as well. just using a fresh testicular sample is not the norm. Microfluidics, I think again it's one of the recent techniques spoken about. So today morning in the workshop we did get people to get a little glimpse of what this microfluidics is all about. It's a little tech chip which helps us separate sperms with the best DNA. It's a new method. I'm sure we're still waiting for a lot of RCTs and meta-analysis. The data so far with Oasis looks assuring. And we did RCT, the first in the world to do the RCT on sperm DNA fragmentation, where we looked at 4 arms, which is max, microfluidics, TISA, and daily ejaculation. I somehow missed that slide. So we looked at 4 arms, TISA and the daily ejaculation, which is more on the patient perspective. We then looked at max microfluidics, which is with the semen sample. We just completed that RCT. We're presenting that data at ESHRE. This year it's been picked up for presentation. We found that none of these arms were different in terms of intervention. We looked at, after doing the intervention, how far the DNA fragmentation would come down, and also we looked at the live birth. The good thing is, none of these arms had a statistically different live birth rates, which means all are performing well. Which again takes me to a very basic thing, that a daily ejaculation, which was the older way of doing things, still holds good. You know, we all are behind science and technology. The moment there's something new, we all want to play with the gadgets, but I think it's science. You've got to give it a little time. Unless there is evidence, I think you should not be using it to patients left, right, center. Evidence-based medicine has to be the way forward. You just can't use whatever you want and go ahead, might not be the best practice. And I think that's what, when Dr. Pratap sir was talking, he spoke his heart out. He spoke his years and decades of experience out here, and that's what a teacher probably does. It's evidence is what important. So all of us, one thing we got to look forward to publish. You know, if there's something that is making a difference with Western world to what we as the Indian fraternity is doing, I think we are far more skilled and experienced when compared to Westerners. The only thing we don't do is publish. And the only thing they do a lot is, even if there's 100 patients that they've done some work, they publish it. So that's the way they communicate with the world. The way of communication is publication, and that's what youngsters in the present day need. A lot of PGs here. Whatever work you do, please document it, and please look forward to publish it, because we have a huge database of patients, and that's what at Oasis, our student fraternity does. For the last 10 years at ESHRE and ASRM, we've been having abstracts accepted, and we have a huge presence for our presentations. So with the embryos, what's happening, I think the lab, what it was there in 1978 with Bob Edwards to what it is now, there's technologically a lot of improvement. I think a lot of gadgets have come in. Practicing embryology today to practicing embryology way back, I think there is a huge difference. It isn't a difficult job at this point. I'm sure the challenges, I'm not saying it's that easy. Sakshi and Bharti are laughing there, I understand that. And it isn't an easy job, but it isn't that difficult also. I'm sure Pratap sir will really tell us the amount of challenges they have had when they started to do ART in this country. There were not much of technology at that point. If they wanted some information, I'm sure it was only in books and not on the internet. And now things have really changed. You don't know something, even my kid who's 4 years old, knows Google gives you all the information. So that's where we have progressed, and the lab is now a hub of technology. Without, that's a wonderful amalgamation of science and technology, and that's where the success rates at this point have really improved. And in terms of technology, it's helping us pick the best embryos. The incubators are, version after version, they're improving and helping us get the best culture condition. We have reached a point, where it's possible for an embryologist to now work from home. You just have to go, do a little thing and come back and sit back and watch how your embryos are actually progressing. And that's what the time-lapse technology is really helping us. So I used to always be envious about the IT professionals. My wife is in IT, and I used to hate it when she said I'm working from home. But I think thanks to science and technology, it also gives me a little scope to now sit from home and actually monitor my embryos. So where are we progressing with all of this science and technology currently? I think now artificial intelligence is something that's getting into the field of reproductive medicine as well. We want to ensure that we come up with this algorithm where we know which protocol will give us what output, which embryo will really implant or not implant, which sperm needs to be picked in. Too early to say that's the future of ART, but I think lots and lots of groups are trying to look at application of machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence. I'm hoping if it goes in the right way, it would benefit the patient's fertility. So the other little things that I wanted to reiterate, fresh or frozen embryos. Honestly, there's no difference. But why does a frozen embryo transfer gives you a better outcome? Is because you get a little time to go work up on your uterus, adenomyosis, or whatever it is, and then go ahead with transfer. So it's helping you buy some time. And for patient, I think the experience is better. Stimulate, make the embryos, give them a little break. They come back again when they're fresh. I think then that whole stress of back-to-back treatments is not there. We all know hormones drive everyone crazy. So that's where the frozen embryo transfer probably has got an upper hand. And now you can freeze everything, whatever you want. You can buy time. You can actually lock the time. I know there's so much of debate, decades we do, whether to put back a cleavage or blastocyst. The way I balance it out, what works for your best is working for your best. There's nothing like, because today in the session we spoke about blastocyst transfer. Will you go back and do all blastocysts? It might not really work. But all said and done, blastocyst does give you the best outcome, and that's been our experience. But if somebody has had a failed transfer with a cleavage or a day 3 embryo, if they come back for a second attempt, doing another day 3 cleavage stage embryo might not really get the best outcomes. So it's always trying to see what best we can do. You stimulated the lady in this cycle, let's say you didn't get the best eggs or the outcome was not the best. I'm sure the next cycle you want to improvise in the stimulation. That's how I would approach day 3 versus day 5. Undoubtedly, my vote is for day 5, and that's our Oasis success rate of 55 to 60% live birth rates with blastocyst transfer. We believe in doing a lot of individualization. The amount of discussion the lab team and the clinical team does is immense, and we encourage our embryologists to have their say, to tell the clinicians, discuss with the clinicians as to is there an additional lab intervention that could help, and that's what has helped us reach where we are in terms of our KPIs. And last, I think PGTA. I'm sure it's going up and down where people think it's working, not working. Well, this starts patients. Before I go there, I think this is our glue experience, again published in one of the years at H-Ray in human reproduction. And we said that in people with rectal implantation failure, use of embryo glue did give us a better implantation and live birth rate, and our miscarriage rates were less in this group of patients. So embryo glue is not for everyone. So if people are wondering what embryo glue is, it's just a little transfer media enriched with exclusive elective single blastocyst transfer. PJT has a wonderful technology which helps these group of women. So finally, innovation is something that we all believe at Oasis. We always want to bring in the technology which has some evidence that it's helpful to people, and that's what has helped us, bring in fertility preservation, oncofertility, optimizing sperm selection, and multiple things that we do with the embryo and in the laboratory. And the last thing, I think, when it comes to this whole quality thing, documentation. All of these publications that we do, all the students who really work on our research, what makes it simpler? We've got a robust way of maintaining our records, and ARTIS is our in-house built electron medical record system. And we are paperless at Oasis. Patient walks in, everything is on this software, including the embryology work we do. In fact, in the lab, we don't use papers at all. We have these tablets in place. We put all the data there. So I've got 30 branches, and trust me, running around 30 branches, I would not have been alive. So I sit in Hyderabad in my cabin, and this software helps me run the whole show. People ask me, how do you manage? The answer is ARTIS for me, and it's a wonderful innovation our IT team came up with, which really simplifies data management for us. Go back if we are not doing data management. A simple TI cycle, IF cycle that you've done. Once they come back fail, you might want to go back and see what we did and what didn't work and what you want to change in the next cycle. And that's what ARTIS really helps us. It helps us efficiently and effectively manage our patients. So that's one of the innovations. And to add it on this COVID time, we added the electron witnessing system. I think every patient comes up with this little thing, educated, not educated. Will you mix up the gametes? It gives me no happiness doing that. But I think we should blame ourselves. We probably do not create enough transparency into the cycles. And that's why we said need of the hour, let's create transparency. And an electron witnessing system was a wonderful way. So every time an egg, sperm, embryo moves from one place to another place, there's an electron system that actually tracks the movement. And we give that printout to the patient with the date and time of the movement, which gives them a lot of confidence that there is no mix-up, and they're having their own gamete conceived children at Oasis. So that's the end of the little advances that we've had in the field of embryology. And thank you so much, everyone, for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. It was a really wonderful talk, and actually we all know that IVF lab is heart of any IVF center, and we really come to know that there are so many things which happen actually behind curtain. It was a really wonderful presentation. So I just wanted to ask about RI system, whether it is RI witness, is it really necessary with time?
Well, again, honest heart on my hand, I'm not saying that it's a wonderful technology, but let's be very mindful and watchful about the cost it's having. In an Indian scenario, I understand science and improving the work what we do is important, but people are paying from their pocket. So I think the biggest setback of the RI witness system right now is the cost. But otherwise, if I just have to comment on the science, I think it's brilliantly designed. I would love to have a system like that, and that's why we came up with an indigenous thing which is called EWS, an electron witnessing system. So right now we are using it more in our lab. We wanted to validate and ensure it's robust enough, and then hit them.
Also, one more doubt. I mean, it's just for clarification to all about laser assisted hatching. As you said, it's not mandatory for all. So, which are the cases we should practically do?
All right. First, if you do not have a laser and your patient is saying, "Oh, I read on Google and you're not having laser," please tell them it doesn't really make a difference whether you've done laser or not. A laser, let's look at the economics again. It will cost you around 23 to 25 lakhs to invest in a laser. And doing a laser assisted hatching, there's decades of information that said that it's not really helpful. In RIF, we're hoping it will. Again, the level of evidence is poor, and it's not really supporting. It's not even come to a moderate level of evidence. So at this point in time, I wouldn't want you to walk out of the hall with that insecurity that, oh, I don't have a laser little bit. You're not really losing anything. If you're wanting to do PGTA, then yes, I think it is technology that's very helpful. The biopsies are so easier to do with laser. It's atraumatic and it really gives you the best results. But apart from that, I would not really recommend, because I'm sure there are some clinics of Oasis where I don't have laser, I do FETs, the implantations are no different. So I'm very clear, laser doesn't help enhancing your implantation of live birth, whatever category, advanced middle age, RIFs, no, I don't really see a benefit. And that's what the evidence is.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question?
So please can you stay on stage for a while? I would request Dr. Ramesh sir to please felicitate Dr. Krishna sir. Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. Next, I would like to call on stage Dr. Nilesh Balkave, sir, who will be speaking on the new enigma, Young POR. I would like to request Dr. Upendra Sathe, sir, to please introduce the speaker to us.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Privilege of introducing my young friend Nilesh. He is a clinical head and fertility specialist, Oasis Fertility, Pune chapter. Decade-long distinctive experience and expertise in the fields of infertility, reproductive medicine, and gynecological endoscopy. He is renowned for handling infertility cases with good success rate of 67, as we have seen, successfully handling more than 1,200 cases of operative laparoscopy, around 3,000 cases of diagnostic and operative hysteroscopy, especially hysteroscopic myomectomies. He is a former faculty at the reproductive medicine by Universität Klinikum Holstein, Germany, and he has articles indexed in national and international journals, and he has edited a number of books. Here I am presenting you Dr. Nilesh.
Thank you, sir, for your generous words. Sir has seen me through my childhood, where my mother used to take me to him for treatment, because as a gynecologist, he also used to do general practice in those times, and thankful for that, sir. And I've been learning gynae from him. I would like to share to everyone now. Please be patient till 5:30. We'll be ending up all till 5:30 with a half an hour's delay, and we will try to summing up all the cases. So I'm not taking much of your time on poor responders. I'd just like to give these messages here, as I gave in the morning on the hysteroscopy workshop. So challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes them meaningful. Friends, we all know that the cases of poor ovarian responders have been, or poor ovarian reserve have been increasing, and in increasing number of patients coming to our OPD, we are getting low reserve patients. So they are in their late 20s or maybe early 30s. Initially, we used to get poor ovarian response or poor ovarian reserve after 35. That was said. But is the Indian scenario changing? Still, the Western world says that anything aged more than 35, your reserve will tend to drop. But is the Indian scenario changing? That we need to assess, and why is it changing? Probably an insight before I go on to the definition is that our age of menarche is decreasing. So initially we had menarche at 13 or 14. Pratap Kumar sir would agree in those generations it was 15, 16. The definitions are being revised for early menarche. Probably the reproductive lifespan hasn't changed. The reproductive lifespan remains the same, and early menarche may contribute to early menopause. That's what my logic is one. Second thing, probably the increasing pollution, increasing use of plastics around us, increasing stress levels are all contributing to the poor ovarian reserve, and that's why young poor ovarian reserve patient or young poor ovarian responder becomes so an important topic for not only me but for a general gynaec as every one of us. So advanced maternal age more than 40, previous poor ovarian response if you have stimulated and there are less than equal to 3 oocytes, and abnormal ovarian reserve test which will tell that she is a poor ovarian reserve patient. Now, what are these tests? Many tests are available to this FSH levels, then we have the ovarian volume, but the tests which have been validated and used clinically are the AMH levels in nanogram per ml and the antral follicle counts measured in the menstrual phase from day 2 to day 5 of cycle. So this is the Poseidon classification which has now taken over the Escher classification. We have Poseidon's 4 groups. The first 2 groups are where the ovarian reserve is good, but their response is poor. So these are unexpected poor responders, and the next 2 groups, the group 3 and 4, they are known poor ovarian responders where the ovarian reserve is less. The AMH levels less than 1.2 nanograms are classified as poor ovarian reserve patients, and antral follicle count of less than 5 is classified as poor ovarian reserve. So this is the category of patients we should be alarmed of. As a general message for assessing ovarian reserve, any of these 2 tests can be used. Age is an independent criteria for telling the outcome of fertility. So, mind you, friends, age in India for fertility is decreasing, like a good age for fertility. So, it was initially considered as 35. Now, in many of our talks and in FOXY position statements, we say that the age of childbearing should be somewhere between 30 to 32 rather than extending it to 35. So, the age of marriage can be probably told as the same so that she can conceive at around 30, 32. And as obstetrician and as a fertility specialist, if you are doing a pre-marital counseling or if you are doing a pre-conceptional counseling, probably the message should be loud and clear regarding the age of childbearing. And if the patient does want to prolong her age of childbearing, probably she should go for oocyte phasing, which is much talked about since morning. I won't go into these details. These are the KPIs which we assess when we are dealing with poor ovarian reserve, poor ovarian responders. I just want to use an analogy here. India is a cricket-loving nation, and once it comes to poor ovarian reserve, how we can manage this? Like the cricket field. First thing is the training. So the first part, which is off the field, before we venture into the treatment, is the training part. The analogy is the pre-treatment part in the poor ovarian reserve. The second is the toss advantage. On the field, you get the advantage of the toss. So if you choose a right protocol for the poor ovarian responder, you might be able to stimulate her nicely for IUI, for IVF, and your time is limited, that you should know. The due factor, sometimes the field plays its factor and that can affect our results. So the patient factor is very important. Every patient is different, so all protocols will not work in all patients. I'm coming on to the literature where we see that antagonist protocol, agonist protocol have an equal success rate, but Sir Pratap Kumar sir would agree that changing the protocol helps and each patient can respond differently to a different protocol. So the due factor or the patient factor is very important. Power play or power hitting is what additional we can do. Always keep on thinking, always be evolving in what new we can do. So I had just heard Sir talk 2 days back about use of novel trigger. You talked about novel trigger, sir, in one of your webinars, and we started using novel trigger for few of our patients when we use not just dual trigger, it's HCG, agonist, and FSH. If you add FSH 450 as per Sir's advice, you will get a good quality M2 rate and good quality blastocyst. So this is change, and you should keep on evolving in your poor responder patients. The final hit and the trigger is important, and innovative and out of the box thinking is important. So this is the analogy on the field which you can use. And if you see the picture here, a good blastocyst or a good outcome is what we expect. We all want to be Virat Kohli. We all want Virat Kohli to play and win the game for us. A good blastocyst will win the game for us. So a good success rate comes with a good M2, good blastocyst rate, and a good implantation clinical pregnancy rate for us. So once it's training, I will be talking of training more because that's important for everybody's perspective. So Muhammad Ali has said, I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit, suffer now and live less rest of your life as a champion. So if you want to lead your life as a champion, if you want to have a proud head in front of your patients, and if you want to give success to the patients, pre-treatment is very important. You need to tell the patient that be patient. There will be some time we should be spending on the pre-treatment part before we go and jump onto the next part of treatment. Why is this pre-treatment important? One is improving the gamete quality. Many of the patients have both male and female factors. Poor ovarian reserve patients are one of it. Their husband counterpart can have other problems. So improving the gamete quality before we venture into any sort of treatment is very, very important. We all know about reactive oxidative stress and the reactive oxygen species and its problems it has associated with the oocyte quality and the sperm quality. So improving the gamete quality is very, very important, and that's why in poor ovarian response patients, we need to improve the ovarian microenvironment so that our oocyte quality improves. Which are the proven molecules? Coenzyme Q10 is one of the molecules. We need a little androgenic environment in the ovary so that the oocyte quality improves. So DHEA, testosterone gel, these are the next level of treatments which we can use to improve. I talked about improving the oxidative stress and the microenvironment. So coenzyme Q10 is going to help us. Other antioxidants are going to help us. And we all should know that the transformation from the primordial follicle level to the antral follicle level is going to take at least 80 to 90 days time. And this is the duration where the pre-treatment should be undertaken. So don't jump on to treat your patient, don't jump on to tell them advise IVF immediately. Go on slowly. Pre-treatment and your practice outside the field is going to help you on field. Second important thing is synchronization. Once you are stimulating the patient who is a poor responder, synchronization is so important. So if you are going for an antagonist protocol, your aberrant FSH levels can cause one follicle to be a larger follicle and other follicles are not growing. This won't help you because this will give you suboptimal oocytes for ICSI. So probably synchronization is so important that you will have less problems in agonist protocol. But synchronization with use of estrogen, 2 milligram twice a day or twice a day from day 20 of the cycle till you get the periods, and then stopping estrogen and one day washout, and you can do the stimulation later on will help. Synchronization by use of antagonists for 3 to 5 days before the start of stimulation by using a follicular antag can help you. Synchronization with OCPs is now gone out of phase because the recent ESHRE guidelines for controlled ovarian stimulation in IVF say that OCPs should not be used for synchronization, especially in poor ovarian reserve patients. I agree about PCO patients, what sir said. Yes, you need to bring down LH levels by some or the other way. So improving the hyperinsulinemia and hyperandrogenemia will help. Also, use of OCPs will help in those cases. But poor ovarian reserve, you are going to decrease the oocyte quality if you use OCPs. So mTOR signaling is new thing which is coming up. So this is going to help you in improving the oocyte meiotic maturation, improving the granulosa cells, improving the fertility outcomes or the fertilization outcomes, and improving the endometrial status as well. Also, the alpha-linoic acid is also going to help you. So these are in this natural molecule. So once you are telling the patient to go for an antioxidant treatment for 3 months, probably you can also advise a very good diet which is rich in antioxidants, rich in alpha-linoic acid. So all these things which are shown on the right hand side of the screen are going to help the patient. So my message to the PCO patient and message to POR patients is quite clear. They need to stick on to medicines, they need to stick on to a very good diet, they need to stick on to exercise. Probably a pelvic yoga or butterfly pose can improve the pelvic blood flow to an extent and where we can get a good stimulation. So all this is important. So the oxidative stress causing apoptosis and oocyte aging can be prevented by use of alpha-linoic acid, other antioxidants, and probably the mTOR signaling if you improve. So leucine and alpha-linoic acid are these molecules which can be used. So these are the molecules which are coming up as antioxidants. If we come to the literature of improving the quality of oocytes, we see that coenzyme Q10 levels and DHEA levels have the highest maximum success rate. If we see the area under curve, this is a RCT which is taken up from human reproduction update, where we can see area under the curve to be maximum for coenzyme Q10, DHEA, and testosterone gel. and less likely, less useful for other molecules. You can see clomipene citrate, letrozole, or growth hormone can be used, but not with a very good result. For as a gynecologist, when you are once you are handling the patient, the message is clear. Do AMH levels, whatever be her age. Probably if she's crossed 25, she's come to you, do AMH level. If you're doing scans yourself, please check a day 2 scan, check for the antral follicle count yourself. A high resolution machine will help you to correctly get the antral follicle count. So the AFC was initially very difficult to measure, but with a very good machines, maybe G if you are going a P4, P5 onward series is very good, S series is excellent. So any of these series can help you to get a good antral follicle count, check for yourself. Also assess the ovarian stromal blood flow on day 2, which is going to help you to assess which patient is going to respond good. If your ovarian stromal blood flow, the peak systolic velocity is between 5 to 10, you know that this patient is going to respond well. If your peak systolic velocities are less than 5, even if she has a good antral follicle count, she can be a group 1 or group 2 Poseidon, where she will be an unexpected poor responder. So start doing IUI scans for yourself, start doing baseline scans for yourself. That's a message. And start doing AMH levels for all of your patients who have a longer duration of infertility probably. If you have an option of antral follicle count assessment by your own self, probably you can avoid AMH testing to decrease the cost. But I think 2,500 odd is not a very good, very high cost to assess the AMH. These are the molecules which can be used, which I talked about. Second thing, I just have one line about each of these. Choosing the best. Don't choose just the right one, choose the best one. So what is the best protocol? Predictors of ovarian response will be on these 4 parameters: age, serum AMH levels, FSH levels, antral follicle count, and ovarian volume. We can use the antagonist and agonist protocol equally. So how to choose? If it is a poor ovarian reserve patient, she has not undertaken any IVF cycles probably previously, I would go for antagonist protocol as my protocol of choice probably. But if she has taken antagonist protocol and it was a failure and the oocyte quality was not good, synchronization was not good, probably a long agonist protocol would help. How is antagonist going to help over agonist? The dose is going to be less and it's an easy protocol to start with and less number of injections. But how is agonist going to help? So agonist is not out of the way. Agonist is not a gone protocol, because if you see the RCTs, the number of M2, that is the mature oocytes which you get by agonist protocol, is much better than the antagonist protocol, and therefore even if it is not translated into number of blastocysts and clinical pregnancy rates, I feel that if you get 2 or 3 more M2s in a patient whom you are going to get only 3 or 4, if you get 5 or 6, probably you can wait in the blastocyst and your outcomes might increase. So probably that is my. So this is about this trial where oocyte retrieval rate was a little bit higher in the agonist group than in the antagonist group. Then the next question is type of gonadotrophin. Always we think about which gonadotrophin to use in PCOS and POR patients. We all know that some amount of LH is necessary in POR patients, and therefore a combined use of gonadotrophin is better. So HMG will be a better choice, and if the patient is affording, probably a recombinant FSH along with a recombinant LH would be a good choice for such category of patients where you are using only FSH. So if you see the ESHRE guidelines, they clearly say that FSH, RFSH, and simple SMG, they have been equally recommended for ovarian stimulation in poor ovarian responders. What is the right dose? This is the next question. How you stimulate? So any doses ranging from 150 to 300 would be considered the right dose. Anything in excess of 300 is not indicated as per the ESHRE guidelines for poor ovarian responders. Probably up to 450 you can go if your response is not that adequate. But even mild stimulation is not outdated as per the ESHRE guidelines. Mild stimulation with CC can also be used. If you see a slide here, this is my experience with mild stimulation. We have had this 156 patients at Oasis where we have used mild stimulation, and this is our data. The oocyte retrieved, mature oocytes, fertilization rate, blast rate doesn't differ. If you see the significance is not much. What is the inference of this? That the cost is less and we get the same number of blastocysts, or we get the same clinical pregnancy rate. So Even mild stimulation can be used at a less cost in a poor ovarian responder patients. Individualization of protocol is very, very important, and that can be individualized with all these parameters. FSH receptor polymorphism has to be taken in mind when we are stimulating these patients. What is the best practice guideline in post-adolescent group 1 and 2? We all know these are unexpected poor responders. So probably there are high chances of having FSH receptor polymorphism or some genetic abnormality, or they are not responded nicely to the drug. Probably these are the patients where recombinant LH can be used, where HMG can be used, growth hormone can be used. The second group of patients is group 3 and 4, where we know that these are already known poor responders. So very less things we can do for them, but probably, as I talked, the antioxidant usage is very, very important, and use of PRP or stem cells can be used, to rejuvenate the ovaries. New studies are coming up where the primordial follicles to the more antral follicles can be done with use of ovarian rejuvenation. We have a small study now. I got just a ethical committee approval for it, where we are using ovarian PRP to improve the antral follicle counts and probably the success rates of IVF. Probably 6 months down the line, we'll be able to present this data as well. What is power play? What all different we have in our armamentarium is dual steam protocol, repeat steam protocol, continuous stimulation protocol, no stimulation or IVM for poor ovarian responders, and addition of growth hormone. Each one of these has its advantages and disadvantages. I'm not going into the details of this, but this all we have in our armamentarium. Who needs LH in controlled ovarian hyperstimulation in these patients? Age more than 35, hypo patients, poor ovarian responders treated with GnRH antagonists, and group 1 and 2 patients where you have unexpected poor response. Starting strong is good, finishing strong is epic, and therefore we all witnessed the Dhoni's 6th hit in the World Cup last time. So the final hit is very important, and this final hit in the form of trigger is very important. So we have these multiple options. So HCG alone, agonist alone, dual trigger where HCG and agonist can be used. And as per Sir, after Sir's lecture, I started using novel trigger also, which has also improved our success rates. Innovative thinking. The only way to discover the limits of possible is to go beyond the impossible. What's new? Oocyte and ovarian tissue cryopreservation is very important. We need to pass on the message to all the gynecologists and to everybody, to the common public, that freezing is possible. We heard about Priyanka Chopra delivering a child 10 years after her oocyte freezing. So she has frozen the oocytes at the age of 30, and probably she got pregnant at the age of 40. So we blindly follow the film industry where we don't know that they are already frozen their gametes. Probably the freezing the gametes or social freezing is going to become a norm if a lady wants to defer her childbearing for her career, for her sports, or something like that. So this message needs to be passed on, that if you want to conceive, please conceive early. If you don't want to conceive in the immediate future, please freeze your gametes. May it be a man, may it be a woman, freezing gametes is so important. Mature oocyte cryopreservation is no longer experimental, it is proven that it is going to be helpful. In vitro activation, ovarian rejuvenation are also coming up, and we have our experience with this ovarian rejuvenation also. These are the ESHRE guidelines and already summarized it. So to conclude, in fact, poor responders have a diminished pregnancy rate. We need to be alert. We need to guide the society. We also need to use the evidence and our experience when we are treating the poor ovarian responders. So strength and growth come only through continuous efforts and struggle. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilesh, for the beautiful explanation, the tedious insights. Any questions from the audience?
Very nice lecture, Nilesh. You showed your brilliance and your experience of what you have done. My one observation I have done is smoking. Girls smoke a lot these days. They do not realize their eggs get spoiled. So because I had a patient, she was actually 37 years, rich class, husband, wife 3 times they went somewhere else, donor egg their services, they came to me, and they told me that they smoke. I said, that's the reason your eggs are bad. Both husband and wife go for partying every day in the smoke. And I just said, can you just stop it for 3 months? You won't believe, in 3 months she conceived spontaneously. AMH was 0.5, 0.4. and she delivered a baby. Just as a message, I think a very strong message for us to tell the college girls. Because I come from Manipal, where all the fashion and everything is there. I find a lot of girls smoke in public. That's the reason I think they do not know. We are responsible to tell the people this is one of the cause of premature ovarian failure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your insights. Thank you.
Any other question?
Criteria for adding luteinizing hormone in the protocol. Sorry, sir. Criteria for adding LH in protocol.
Yeah, I mentioned it. Those patients where you have used only FSH, recombinant LH, whether to add or not. Probably I would go for HMG always protocols. Whenever I am choosing a HMG, I will choose the HMG which has got traces of HCG. HCG given LH activity has shown to be having more potency. So whenever you are asking the pharma people, tell them how is your LH derived. If it is a HMG, it is human menopausal gonadotropin, which is urinary derived, the LH activity will be slightly lower. So if it is a HCG given LH activity, if it has traces of HCG, it will having a little bit more LH. If that's not work, recombinant LH can be used. Probably the group 1 and 2 of Poseidon, where they are unexpected poor responders, where we can use this recombinant LH as this drug of choice. Then all patients of hypo where we want to stimulate, we can add. Age more than 35, again, where the response can be better with recombinant LH can be used. So these are the category of patients.
As usual, it was really very good presentation. So you stress more on CoQ10. So I just want to ask you dosages of CoQ10.
Thank you, sir. It is a very good question. Normally in male infertility wells we don't check, we just go by the brand and give the brand. But we should check the content of the brand. We should for ourselves. Once I decided which antioxidant I was to use in male infertility, which antioxidant I want to use in female infertility, I went to all the brands. I checked their the recommended dietary allowance for each day. What does the statistics say, and then I finalized which brand to use, not by the commercials of it. For male infertility, it is 100 milligram twice a day, and for female infertility, it should be around 600 milligram per day. So you get a different brand where you have a 300 milligram of CoQ10, which should be given twice a day to be an effective antioxidant. So most of the studies which we say that coenzyme Q10 is working are those studies where the CoQ10 is used in a higher dose for female infertility.
Thank you.
Hello. So you have time? Yeah, what are the role of melatonin that you introduced?
Melatonin is coming in a great way in both kind of patients. In some studies, there for use of hyper responders as well. But in poor to ovarian reserve patients, we've seen that melatonin. There are studies where it can be used. We get combinations of DHEA with melatonin as well, which have worked well. So I feel that it's a molecule which can be regarded. You have so many number of molecules, but it is one of those molecules. I meant to say CoQ10, DHEA, and testosterone gel because these are the proven molecules. There are other molecules like anti-ovarian aging molecules like this resveratrol, which is there in red grapes, red wine. Okay, so if your patient is having that, probably you can advise accordingly. But these are some molecules which are now being used in some medicines which are there and probably will have more molecules like alpha-linoleic acid, leucine, which are coming up in a great way. For stimulating poor ovarian responders, in stimulation of poor ovarian responders for IVF, it said that CC with HMG protocol is recommended as per the ASHRAE guidelines. Letroz with HMG is not recommended because that is going to not give you a good oocyte yield and your estrogen levels are going to be low, and has shown that the oocyte quality is also not good, especially for Letroz with HMG protocol. Only HMG can be used or CC with HMG can be used. CC I am adding only in those patients where I want to use a mild stimulation protocol so that we don't need an antagonist to downregulate the LH surge. Thank you. We'll be finishing off till 5:30, 5:45.
Thank you, sir, for throwing light on such an important topic. I would request you to please felicitate our chairperson for today. Dr. Upendra Sathe, sir. Dr. Ramesh Patel, sir.
Thank you.
I request everybody to download Kahoot app, or we can play this quiz by www.kahoot.in. Kahoot is KAHOOT. Yeah, so we have interesting prizes for the winners, first three winners. So I request everybody to download the app, or you can play directly from the link. Link is displayed on the screen. Kahoot, either you can download the Kahoot app, KAHOOT Kahoot app, or www.kahoot.in. IT. Kahoot.it. So we will wait for everybody to log in. We will be flashing the game pin shortly.
Final discussion.
I request all of you to download Kahoot app. We are going to have an interesting quiz. It will brushing up your knowledge. Yes, we are going to give prizes to first three winners. And it will be a 10-minute quiz. We are first conducting the panel discussion. After that, we will be having the quiz.
So I welcome you all for the panel discussion, which will be a quick panel discussion in around 15 to 20 minutes. We will discuss 4 cases, and we'll be having the insight from all our fertility consultants and fellow obstetrician gynecologists here. So I welcome on stage my co-moderator, Dr. Pallavi Untwal. She's from Nasik, leading the clinical team in Nasik. I welcome on stage Dr. Kanchan Durukar. She is a fertility consultant at Oasis Fertility, Pune. I welcome Dr. Shaili Chavan Shitole. She is a fertility consultant at our Kharadi Center. Dr. Rajendra Shitole. He is a fertility consultant in Pune. I welcome Dr. Chandrakala Patil. I welcome on stage Dr. Pallavi Tapala. She is our fertility specialist at Wakat. Time intercourse with various oral agents and also gonadotropins were used at multiple clinics. Now, since 4 years, she also has undergone 2 cycles of IUI previously. It's now almost 7 years since she had been trying with all this history. Now, she's a PCO. We all know that her result is good. Is time important in managing PCO patient or is it not? Because we have a very good result. I would take this to Dr. Rajendra.
Yes, definitely time is very important because even if she is a case of PCO and result is good, but with the age there is an effect on the oocyte and the quality of oocyte goes down and there can be a sudden decline in the result also. Once you see a patient of PCOS at the age of 36, 37 and even at the age of 39, same patient may have only 4, 5 years. There is a rapid decline with the age. We have to manage in time these patients also.
Absolutely. The message is loud and clear that even if it is elderly PCO, we don't have lots of the time in the world so that we can try conservative management or do lots of trial and error with her. So probably she then underwent laparoscopic ovarian drilling and diagnostic hysteroscopy. So is laparoscopic ovarian drilling really justified in today's era, Dr. Saini?
So laparoscopic ovarian drilling in today's era is like really not justified. As you said, she's an elderly PCO patient in whom she was stimulated by the use of oral androgens and gonadotropins and her androgen levels are in the normal range. She had no sign of hyperandrogenism. So in her case, I wouldn't suggest a laparoscopic ovarian. So in short, in which cases would you like to do ovarian drilling? So laparoscopic ovarian drilling can be indicated in individuals who are like young individuals who have the LH levels which are raised with raised AMH levels, and those who have like they are resistant PCO patients who are not kind of responding to the gonadotropins. Even after gonadotropins, they are not responding to the stimulation. So in those individuals, or if you're going ahead with laparoscopy or any other procedure, then we can go drilling along with that. So the patient also, as rightly said by Dr. Saili, also I would like to add some patients who are staying far away and they cannot come for the follow-up. So in such cases, LOD will help.
What next for her, Dr. Kanchan? What you would like to plan for this patient? She has already undergone 7 years of treatment here and there with IUI cycles, with LOD also done. What next for her? Any role of vitamin D in this patient?
Yes, vitamin D do have a role in improving the fertility in the patients with PCO. And definitely the next management will be depending upon the patient's anxiety also, her keen to conceive also. I will give her the options of duration of marriage also matters and age also matters. Though the next, according to protocol, the next management will be of course controlled ovarian hyperstimulation and controlled stimulation and IUI, but considering the cycle number that we should keep in control, and we can otherwise have 1 to 2 cycles of IUI, and then we can go for IVF.
Okay, so 1 or 2 more cycles Samson would like to give for IUI. Anybody who would like to refer here or any additional treatment?
I will definitely go ahead with IVF. IVF. Because we have to cut short the time to pregnancy also now.
Right. So we are already have seen that the husband is having oligospermia here. So anything before going to IVF, anything you will do, Dr. Uma?
So patient, they should be started with antioxidants, and as oligoacids, we should also think about DNA fragmentation.
Okay.
We are thinking for IVF.
Okay.
So antioxidants should be given for at least 3 months, and we can always tell them about the stone selection techniques we are coming these days like hands or microfluidics.
Yes. So elderly PCO, they are not just like the normal PCO. We always know that the oocyte quality is going to be a little bit down, and therefore giving antioxidant treatment in such kind of patients is also important. Improving the hormonal environment in the body, in the ovarian physiology is also important. So hyperinsulinemia, hyperandrogenemia, if any, should be corrected. So probably lifestyle modification. Once we are treating the husband, also we can treat the wife with use of antioxidants, and probably is there any role of metformin anybody in this patient? Dr. Rahul? So, Dr. Pallavi, which kind of patients will start metformin?
So the patients with PCOS, usually they are insulin resistant, and the hyperinsulinemia lead to decreased quality of the oocyte. So these patients may be metformin, usually 2 to 3 months before only, and that is a proven decreased risk of OHSS and improving the quality of oocytes and increased clinical pregnancy rate in these patients.
PCO patients with obese, you must start.
We must start metformin. So that is right. Will you do certain tests before starting, or PCO with obesity will start metformin, or you will go for any test?
We can do the fasting insulin and HbA1c and sugar levels also. There is no harm. Because if they come out with diabetes, then you have to treat the diabetes also. But if they come out with the higher levels of fasting insulin, more than 12 or something, then you have to treat with the metformin in the TDI doses. 5 milligram PDS can suffice.
Yeah. My question to Dr. Kanchan and Dr. Saidi, any use of ionositors, are they recommended nowadays, or they are not recommended, or only metformin or combination? What is your choice for insulin sensitization?
So, individuals with PCO, especially those who are not responding, or lean PCO individuals who are not responding, or obese PCO, they come with insulin resistance. So, according to me, a combination of metformin and ionositol will be a better thing. In terms of recommendation, ionositol per se individually will not be recommended.
Yeah. So that's a clear message in the recent HRA guidelines. They say if you want to use adjuvants, metformin is a drug of choice. Inositors can be used as an adjuvant to metformin, where you want to little bit go on a little lower dose of metformin, because you all know that metformin is going to cause gastric side effects. Your starting dosage should be kept low. So you start with 500 milligram once a day, then twice a day, then maybe 3 times a day. The ideal dosage is somewhere between 1.5 to 2 grams, and this may cause side effects. So initial starting dosage should be low. You should always keep in mind the side effect of lactic acidosis and gastric discomfort, and sometimes discontinuation can be there. So you go on slow, and therefore the inositols have a role because they supplement your metformin for insulin sensitization. Now, in this patient, we went on to do a IVF. I would like to ask this patient, we went for antagonist protocol and we used the agonist trigger, and then we used microfluidics, and we could get 2 good blasts, and this was the beta SCG result of this patient with 2 good A5 blasts. So we got a positive result. So what is the care during IVF which you would like to take in stimulating this patient? Any special precautions, Dr. Arjun?
Main precaution in PCOS patient is to prevent the OSS. So we can choose the protocol out of 2 protocols ideally we are using nowadays: antagonist protocol or progesterone prime stimulation protocols. So both any of these protocols can be used, and with the agonist trigger you can freeze all embryos, and you can defer the chance of OSS. Nowadays with the use of agonist trigger there is hardly any chance of OSS. Even if you retrieve the 20-30 oocytes, there is hardly a chance of OSS. And then you can post-operatively also manage the patient with antibodies, letrozole, cabergoline to prevent the occurrence of OSS.
Is there any role of growth hormone in this patient?
I don't have any experience with growth hormone, so I can't comment on that.
I think you both have experience with growth hormone.
Yes. For the poor PCOS poor responders, there we can do have the role of growth hormone. So they respond well after we add the growth hormone. PCOS poor responders.
Even in cases of PCO who have responded, but the quality of result is delayed. In those cases, also growth hormone has shown more results.
Also, there is a now novel technique we can say IBM has come up recently. So, what do you think is the role of IBM in case of PCOS patients?
In the patients who have previous history of OHSS, who is young and having previous, or where we are thinking of less stimulation, mild stimulation, in those patients. But yes, definitely we need to make the patients aware that the clinical pregnancy rate or the success rate with IVF is not that as the conventional IVF is there. So that needs to be conveyed to the patient, and then we can go ahead with this novel technique that is IVF. It will definitely, it is an in vitro maturation technique, and it will definitely prevent OHSS and landing up into OHSS.
So, in summary, elderly PCO, so treat her with a little more caution. Protocol should be individualized. OHSS free clinic is the dictum. Treat the patient as a whole, and male parameters to be monitored more closely. Yes. Yeah. So second case is there, 30 years old, resident of Solapur and infertile since 5 years. It's a case of severe hopes. 3 IUIs are already done, no positive result. ICSI was planned, anti-protocol done. 10 M2s we got, and 1 grade 4 task was formed. So, what do you think should be the further management in this patient?
We are going to discuss severe hopes here. Probably anyone who would like to throw light upon on the semen analysis before we go on to the severe hopes part, like the recent WHO semen analysis, Dr. Rajan or Dr. Pallavi?
The recent WHO guidelines for semen analysis 2021 says total sperm number should be 39 million per ejaculate, and the sperm concentration should be 15, now it is 16 million per ml, and the total motility should be 42% as per 2021. And of this, the progressive motility should be 32%, and the viability is 58%. And the morphology, according to strict criteria, is more than that's up to 4%. 3 to 4% is considered as normal morphology, and the WBC count should be less than 1 milliliter per ml.
So, what do you think were the limitations of this old WHO criteria and the advantage of the new WHO?
Dr. Rajan?
New WHO criteria, they are not considered, old WHO criteria, they are not considering these sperm function tests also. And nowadays, new WHO guideline included the Indian population or Asian population also. That is more helpful. There is no much change, but there are these good guidelines that come up.
So when we consider the patient of OATS, we'll come to this case later on. But in general, all our audience, we had a workshop on male infertility as well in the morning. But how will you go on assessment and treatment of this patient? What tests, Dr. Kanchan? How do we evaluate a patient of OATS?
Okay. So first we need to do the clinical examination. History and clinical examination is very important for the patient. Then going for the hormonal markers, we should do the serum FSH level, serum estrogen, testosterone level. Then going for prolactin and the thyroid level, and USG scrotum is very important to rule out any varicosis. And if it is less than 5 million, then definitely we should do the karyotyping and Y chromosome microdeletion. So these are the basic tests that we should advise to the male partner when it is less than 5 million.
So in such cases, while doing semen analysis, what extra care you will take? What information you will?
Yes, so while doing the analysis, we should, these are the practical tips that the patient should have adequate abstinence. Abstinence is there or not, whether there was a spillage. That these are the things these are the small things that we need to ask. And before coining the diagnosis, we should actually do a second analysis after the interval of say 1 month. Yeah.
So we all know that this teratospermia is there in many reports once it comes from a fertility center, and once it comes from a pathology center, all is normal. So any views on this, Dr. Abhindra, Dr. Uma, on the teratospermia and how to evaluate it, and what is it necessary to treat that?
So teratospermia, we cannot treat teratospermia, but at least by doing a DNA fragmentation, we can note down whether it will be useful or not, how to go for sperm selection techniques as I told previously. But teratospermia as such cannot be treated. We can try it by giving empirical therapy with antioxidants.
Yes.
If teratospermia is there, then by doing ICSI, what extra care you should take?
Yeah, what extra care we can take?
So while doing ICSI, like max morphological assessment of sperm is important.
Yeah. So rather than max, probably MC is better.
Yes.
Dr. Ajay, can you direct what is MC?
MC, we can visualize the sperm under the microscope up to nowadays. The microscope have come up with the zooming technology of 7,000 times.
Yeah.
So we have in our center, we are using MC. We are not using max. We are not used to max. But in these patients, whenever they come with the reports of their sperm from outside or normal sperm from the outside, and the count is less 5 10 million, we always confirm with our employees that how sperms are looking, and they can be used for XC. DFI to be done, and in these patients, it is better to use the TESA sperm. So we have a good results with the TESA sperm.
So, Dr. Saidi, when to order hormones in severe OATS patients, and how do we interpret the reports? Because that's very important, which patient has a failing testicular function, which has hypothalamus problem. How we can assess that?
So when to order hormones is basically when we have a semen analysis report which shows that the count of the patient is less than 1 million. Or it is like he is giving a sample, but the sample is coming out to be of a low volume. He's not able to ejaculate, or the patient has some, features of ejaculatory dysfunction or erectile dysfunction. The features of ejaculatory erectile dysfunction or low semen volume can point towards a low testosterone level. If his count is on the lower side, then hormones such as FSH, LH, testosterone, his thyroid and prolactin levels have to be kind of ordered. So if the individual comes with low FSH and low LH level, then we have to kind of rule out hypogonadropic hypogonadism. So our treatment to these individuals will vary. If he comes with a normal FSH level and his testosterone level is low, then we can kind of supplement him by giving LH, which is a surrogate of testosterone, and in that case, HCG, which is a surrogate. So in that case, we can kind of improve the semen analysis in this individual.
HCG, how much you give?
SCG we can give 5,000 international units twice a week over a period of 4 weeks. Then we can repeat the analysis to see whether there is an improvement. If patient is having low testosterone, then is there any role of injectable testosterone? Injectable testosterone, if the patient wants to plan for fertility, definitely there's no role of injectable testosterone in that case.
The message is clear: you don't use injectable testosterone because this is going to hamper the man more. So probably only particular category of patients you need to use gonadotrophins. Some patients HCG, as you said. Only few patients where the TE ratio is less, the testosterone to estrogen ratio is less, we can use clomifene citrate, which is a cheaper alternative to letrozole. So letrozole can also be used.
Is there any role of US color doctor in these situations?
Definitely. Because if they are presenting with the low ejaculate with low counts, then you can definitely without any obstruction is there. Is there any chance of varicose, which is causing more oxidative stress and the damage in this form? So definitely without any problem in the genital system, you can do Doppler and sonography.
Dr. Rahul, which cases you would like to refer to urologist for varicose surgery? Yeah, so those who have infertility and any, we have grade 4 varicoses, so clinically detectable varicoses are there. So any clinically detectable varicoses, we would go to it, or any grade 3, grade 4 varicoses, where we will refer to a urologist or call a urologist for that. If you are having very severe holes where the counts are less than 1 million and the patient has to go varicose surgery, probably in such settings that Dr. Rajendra suggested, that testicular sperms can give you better results. So probably in the varicose surgery itself, we will retrieve testicular sperms and freeze it so that we have a little bit better sperms for ICSI and the outcome increases. Sperm DNA fragmentation is not talked about. Karyotyping and Y chromosome microdeletions can be advised for severe host patients, like Dr. Kanchan said. Pre-treatment is very, very important. All of you have highlighted this. Lifestyle modification is very important. Tell the patient to avoid too tight undergarments, too tight clothes. Avoid prolonged sitting. If they are IT professionals, they have a job which is prolonged sitting. Avoid that. Antioxidant usage is mandatory. Lots hydration is very mandatory. So that should be undertaken. Antibiotics, if the semen culture is showing problem and infection is there. CC, letrozole, HMG, HCG only in those patients where it is indicated. As I told for female infertility, for male infertility also, analyze for yourself what are the standard doses and is your medications, what antioxidant you are giving, does it have the right dosage of that molecule, so that you can give that. And probably when it comes to medical management, everybody has talked about the antioxidant use based on the testosterone to estrogen ratio. CC or letrozole along with HCG can be used. Testosterone in any form should be discouraged, it should not be used. If you want to give antibiotic, give a prolonged good antibiotic which has a broad spectrum effect for at least 3 weeks so that it is effective. Nutraceuticals can be used. IVF for ICSI. This is the last question to the panelists who are doing ICSI. So Dr. Rajendra, Dr. Kanchal can take this up. Your choice.
So whenever we have a bad sperms or low count sperms, ICSI is always better for the mature oocytes at least. Those oocytes which are small or M1 oocytes, you can consider if you have a count in patient, you can consider going for the IVF for small oocytes. But for the mature oocytes, it is straightforward ICSI.
ICSI came into picture for the males with less than 5 million sperm count. So ICSI is the treatment of choice for the patients with less than 5 million sperm count.
So thank you all the panelists. Probably we are not taking up the next case because of shortage of time. We'll be having the quiz in 5 minutes so that everybody will play the quiz. Thank you for having an interactive panel. All of you are very good friends. Thank you all the audience for coming up here, and please wait for the quiz. Thank you so much. I would like to give away the mementos to all the panelists. Please wait for the mementos.
app, or you can join from www.kahoot.it. Okay, pin is 2814183. We are waiting for all our players. It is an informative quiz. Show your team game spirit. Please join in. Please join in. This is the Kahoot. You can join from Kahoot app, or you can directly join from www.kahoot.it. Yes, we have a first player. This is an informative quiz. It will just brush up your knowledge. It is a very simple quiz, so do please log in. Everybody can log in. It will just brush up the knowledge that we have, gained. And at the end of the day, this is just the small test of the knowledge. We'll start in 5 minutes. 20 minutes will be there for each question. 20 seconds. Sorry, 20 seconds will be there. 20 seconds for each question. And yes, we have 8 participants till now. Yes, right. Ravi, Rameshma, all of you, we are welcome for this quiz. Yes, yes. You are not eligible for prize. We will be starting. So, first question coming up for you for this quiz. 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Okay. Identify this ovarian pathology. It's a very easy question. This is the ovarian pathology. It is paraovarian cyst, it is endometriotic, hemorrhagic cyst, or dermoid cyst. What is the pathology that is displayed? 9 more seconds.
Rajendra is not allowed. He got a prize last time.
And the correct answer is endometriotic cyst, classic round glass appearance it is. So it is endometriotic cyst. So Pars is at number 1 position. We have Rajendra and then Dr. Ramesh sir is on the 3rd position. Rahul Chavan, Sai Anindishan is on the 5th position. Next question coming up. Increased incidence of monozygotic twins is seen in more after PGTA, embryo glue, blastocyst culture, or assisted hatching. We have been talking about this all the day. One answer, 9 more seconds. Buck up all the audience, give your answer. 3, 2, 1, and the answer is assisted hatching. So all can lead, but of this, more chances is with assisted hatching. We got 7 correct answer. Again, pass. Who's lead? Okay, Pallavi. Okay, she's leading the scoreboard. Yes. Next question coming up. The most important factor for pregnancy continuation in IVF is age, fresh versus FAT, IVF versus 60, or day 3 or day 5. What is it? What is the most important factor? 6 answers we got. 9 more seconds. 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. And the answer is age. So answer is age. Okay. So most important is age. Again, Rajendra is leading the scoreboard now with Sai Anandrishan. I'm sorry if I spell it wrong. And Dr. Ramesh is on the 3rd position. Next question, please. Subserous fibroid with more than 50% intramural component, FIGO stage is. I have given the clue also here. So what is the stage? Answer is in the PPT actually. What is the answer? 5 more seconds. So So answer is it is stage 5. So more than 50% it is, answer was there actually in the slide it was there. So when it is more than 50% intramural component in the subsequent fibroid, it is 5. If it is less than 50%, then it is 6. And completely subserous is 7, like that. Next question, again, Ramesh sir is leading the scoreboard now. Rajendra, Sai Ranindrishan in the 3rd position, Pulse and Ravi on 4th and 5th position. Next question coming up. What is the most widely known mechanism that accounts for impaired spermatogenesis seen in varicose? Is it scrotal hyperthermia, reflex of renal and adrenal metabolites, angle of insertion of left internal spermatic vein, or release of norepinephrine? We have 6 answers, 7 more seconds. Buck up all of you. And the answer is scrotal hypothermia. So all candidate mechanism, what most widely accepted mechanism is scrotal hypothermia. So we have got 8 correct answers. Again, Dr. Ramesh is leading the scoreboard. Next question coming up. 7th question. In LUF, all is true except. So we have to choose the wrong. Hyperprolactinemia can be one of the cause. Dual trigger can help. Delaying trigger can help, and NSAID have no role. What is the correct answer? Sorry, what is the wrong? 4 answers, 4 more seconds. So NSAIDs have no, NSAIDs do cause LUF. So NSAID should not be given in the patients who have known LUF or leukinase unruptured follicle is known complication. In those patients, we should avoid NSAIDs. So this is the message from this question. Next, Ramesh sir is again leading. Rajendra, Sai Ranindra in the 3rd position. Next question coming up. True or false? Progesterone luteinizing phase support is beneficial for the patient undergoing ovulation induction with letrose plus gonadotropin 9 years ago. True or false? We heard this with Pratap Kumar sir's talk also about luteal phase support. What is true? Should we give or should we not give? To do or not to do? 9 answers. And the answer is yes, it should be given. So luteal phase support is indicated in the patients where we are using gonadotropin. Here luteal phase support is beneficial as studies are saying. Again, Ramesh sir is leading the scoreboard. Sai Ranindra has come to 2nd position. 9th question, IVM, all is true except. So consists of retrieving immature oocyte, can be used in the patient with previous history of OHSS. It is an experimental strategy and clinical pregnancy rate is same as IVF. So what is wrong in this? 5 answers we have got. And the answer is clinical pregnancy is not same as the conventional IVF. So clinical pregnancy will always be lower because the number of oocytes that we retrieve are always less. That's why the clinical pregnancy rate will always be lower in case of IVF as compared to conventional IVF. Next question, Ramesh sir again leading the scoreboard. Next question coming up for you. To prevent the adverse effect of long-term GnRH agonist in the uterine fibroid, what we can give? Danazol, raloxifene, tranexamic acid or calcium supplementation. To prevent the adverse effect in long-term GnRH agonist, what we can give? 6 answers, 7 answers, 5 more seconds. So answer is calcium. Of course, we should give the calcium support for this patient because there can be osteoporosis and these patients with oncologist, we should give the calcium support to them. So again, Ramesh sir is leading the scoreboard with 6,000 points. Next question, admin question. All of the following is used for the management of OHSS except. So what is not used? Albumin is used, cabergoline is used, LNWH is used, and GCSF. So what is not used? 5 answers we got. Three more seconds. What is the correct? So GCSF is not used. Other all are used for the management of OHSS. We have been discussing about this in the today's day. Again, Ramesh sir is leading the scoreboard. Sai Ranindra is on the 2nd position, followed by Pars. Pallavi, Dr. Pallavi. 12th question coming up. Hyperechoic bands traversing the endometriotic cavity presence of skip lesion is noted. I have put it the picture also. What is this? Adenomyosis, endometriosis, Asherman syndrome, or scar endometriosis. Diagnose this condition. What is it? So there is a hyperechoic band. It is traversing the endometrial cavity, and there are skip lesions also. There is a severe hyperechoic bands are there. What is it? And the answer is Asherman syndrome. It is not adenomyosis, dear friends. It is Asherman syndrome, which is traversing the cavity. So it is typical diagnosis of Asherman syndrome. So again, Ramesh is leading the scoreboard. Next question coming up, 13th question, the genetic analysis of pregnancy tissue. Following test is recommended for you. So what is it? Is it FISH, PCR, RACTH? Yes, and none of them. So answer is RACTH. Only 4 of you have done correctly. So recent SY guideline is saying that RACTH is the genetic analysis testing of choice for the pregnancy tissue. So this question coming up from SY guidelines. So again, silent injury has come up on the top. 14th question coming up. FET cycle when compared with the fresh eating have increased risk in all except large for gestation is, small for gestation is, PIH preterm. So what is the difference between fresh and frozen embryo transfer? So all is true for FET except 5 answers, only 6 answers. Backup guys, 8 answers. So it is small for gestation. Small for gestation is more common with fresh transfer, not frozen transfer. So these are again references from the papers of Ashray. Side and injury is on the first position, followed by Pallavi, Dr. Ramesh is on the third position. Which of the following feature is not a USG finding? It is not a USG finding, guys. Anerythmic, lacunae, irregular endometrial myometrial junction, linear striation and parallel shadowing, and symmetrical thickening of anterior and posterior walls. So what is not the finding? We have only 5 answers coming up. Adenomyosis we want to diagnose. I put the picture also to have a 0 seconds. And the answer is symmetrical thickening. It is always asymmetrical thickening in the case of adenomyosis, dear friends. So here we have learned about the USG finding of adenomyosis also in this question. So again we have side and at the first position, followed by Pallavi. She is on second position. Dr. Ramesh, Dr. Rahul Chavan has come up with 4th position. After the 5th position. Nice, guys, come up. So most common chromosomal abnormality in the couples with RF, recurrent implantation failure. What is it? Is it inversion, translocation, mosaicism, deletion? Two answers we have got till now. So in RF, what is the most common chromosomal abnormality? What is it? Is it inversion, translocation? What is the most common report that you get? So it is translocation. Most of you have given inversion, but it's not inversion, dear friends. It is autosomal dislocation, that is translocation. Again, we have Pallavi reading the scoreboard now. Next question, I will just quickly go. 17th question, which among the following is a hysteroscopic evidence of chronic endometriosis? I put the picture also. Hyperemia, micropolyps, stromal edema, all of the above. What is it? In the chronic endometriotic hysteroscopic finding. Actually, the question is based on the triad. The answer was all of the above. All of the above is the finding. Again, Pallavi is leading. Side and entry of the second position, followed by Dr. Ramesh. Next question. True regarding procyclin group 2 is all except. I have put the answer also. So less than 35, more than 5 FC, more than 1.2 mH, and none of those. So what is procyclin group 2? All is correct except 5 answers. You can see the clue and answer also. Group 2 is actually, group 2 is more than 35. Group 2 is more than 35. Next question coming up for you. Again, Pallavi is reading the scoreboard. Well done, Pallavi. So in WHO 2021 essay guidelines, all is true except Semen volume 1.4, progressive motility more than 30%, normal forms more than 4%, and total motility more than 40%. Actually, answer is already discussed. You have to just watch that. Select from that. Read it. So the answer after displaying also many of you are going incorrect. Actually, it is total motility more than 40% is not a correct answer. It is more than 42%. So Dr. Pallavi is again leading the scoreboard. We are coming to the end of this quiz. So hold on your seats. This factor for anticipated chronic smoking, autoimmune hepatitis, fragile X syndrome, delayed menarche. What is the risk factor? So 5 answers we got. 3, 2, 1, and the answer is it is delayed menarche. Okay, so early menarche is the risk factor, not delayed menarche. So 5 answers we got correct. Again, Pallavi is leading the scoreboard. Sai Ranendri and Dr. Ramesh is at the 3rd position. So, deciding question coming up. Oocyte donor requirement according to new AR debate 2021 is all except age 23 to 35 can donate only once in a lifetime and would at least have one child and can donate in respect of parental status. 5 answers we got. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the answer is. She should have one child. It is not the parenting is not mandatory, dear friends. In the new bill, so only 2 of you have given it correct. 23 to 35 age is correct. Can donate once in life. That is also correct. And in respect of parental status, they can donate. But it is not mandatory that they should have one child. So now we have a winner. We have a podium. Third position, Dr. Ramesh Gaikwad sir. Second position, Sai Ranendri, and the first position is Dr. Pallavi. Yes, Dr. Pallavi has won the quiz. And runner-up is Rahul and Makhan. So congratulations to those also. So we invite all the first 3 winners of the dais for the gift. Dr. Nilesh, we invite you to please give the gift to our winners. Dr. Nilesh sir. Sai Ranendri, Dr. Ramesh. Sai Ranendri, please come, please. Sai Ranendri. Pallavi has won the quiz with the first position.
मैडम थोड़ा
Pallavi.
पीछे मैडम कैमरा
Sai Ranendri, she has scored 11,725 points in the second position. Congratulations, and we actually appreciate your game spirit. Ramesh sir, please, we are honored to have you here and playing our quiz. Thank you so much. 10,622 points. Thank you all. So thank you all of you who have participated and showed their interest. So,
एक मिनट सर प्लीज